Right over there, champ.
Let's go. We're going to go.
Good morning.
That'd be great, man. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in to the Rob Brown radio program is on the air. Happy Tuesday morning, my dudes, my dudettes, my amigos, my amigas. I hope that you are all just living your best life right now. Just out there making good choices, feeling real good. As Booker T would say, good, real good. We got a show lined up today. We got plenty of stuff to talk about. The NHL Stanley Cup playoffs, conference finals are set. The NBA playoffs, the finals are set. And I am, for one, very excited to discuss and debate said NBA and NHL Stanley Cup finals because they're just spectacular. And our conference matchups, to me, are also real good. And I look forward to breaking those down with you over the course of the day today after the Canucks and the Oilers did battle. The final Game 7 across those two tournament brackets went into the books last night, and the Oilers get the better of the Canucks yesterday evening. And we're going to talk about and set up the conference finals over in the NBA. Obviously, we had our Game 7s in the conference semifinals wrap up on Sunday evening. And coming up later on in the radio broadcast, I am quite excited to have a couple of different discussions. One of the things that is a positive about working here in the early morning portion of the day, to me, one of the positives, if there is one, not the 3:30 a.m. wake-up call, but the fact that we get first crack at everything, right? Something happens on a Sunday night. It is the great one, Lonzo and I, that are in here first thing in the AM the next day. We get to tell y'all what we think about it before anybody else does. And yeah, I think that's kind of cool. I also enjoy it very much when after that happens later in the day, I hear other shows that bring up the same stuff and also have very good opinions like mine and the great ones. Yesterday on the show, and yes, I am diving right in. Also, I'm a rude jackass. Hi, Lonzo. How you doing, bud? Happy Tuesday.
I figured
I'm a tyrant.
No,
I forgot.
I figured I was being punished for what I said earlier. So I'm just sitting over here taking it because I might deserve it.
Lonzo apologized that I absorbed the smart castic of he and Chris Evans, Captain America, down the hall this morning. And I thought, a little bit. It's only been 5 years, well, 4.5.
You pick up traits from people that you spend a lot of time around. So, I mean, when you came here, you were humble.
Yep.
You were
quiet,
you were enthusiastic,
reserved.
All those things.
Optimistic.
And then on purpose, we ruined you. So,
I must break him.
Before you came into our apartment, we decided that we were going to corrupt you, and it worked.
It sure did. I'm a different guy now. I just am. So yesterday we talked a little bit about one of the biggest problems that a media broadcast outlet can have. And that problem is when they have a clear and evident bias and it is like not even kind of reserved, right? It's not even really kind of held back. And I talked about one incident in particular from this weekend's NBA games, an incident in which the largest broadcasting outlet in America embarrassed themselves. And those were my words. I said, I think they embarrassed themselves. And the problem is I don't know that they realize that they embarrassed themselves. And the second problem is I don't know that there is any consequence from embarrassing themselves.
Come on, they don't care. I mean, if they're being held accountable for this, the love of the Dallas Cowboys will be next for people to come at them about.
It's fair, and it's fair based on the same guy. The same guy is a big part of that. Now, at least with that, like, they have some voices that constantly go out there and talk bad about Dallas. So at least the conversation is somewhat reserved, somewhat balanced. With what happened during Game 7 of the Knicks game this Sunday night, it absolutely was not. And then I thought to myself, am I just overblowing it? I mean, again, as Lonzo pointed out, I have become over the years a ruthless, tyrannical dictator on the air. Maybe it is my jealousy, my envy that has made me feel this way.
See, I don't know. We've had shows on this station that are no longer on the station that became known as, we'll say, the Clemson Show.
Sure. Because
of their bias towards Clemson and against the Gamecocks. And it became the identity of that show. I think it happens a lot. I think it happens on TV too. You know, when you tune in to that particular network that you're going to get two things. They're really going to be gung-ho for everything New York. And as I mentioned before, Dallas. I don't know why the Dallas thing is in there, but it's there. Every other story.
You're not wrong, but I would say that for a couple of different things. Number one, a show like this one is an editorial show. Now, we may be fortunate every now and then to break some news. Lonzo and I, common to show up on the Wrestling Dirt Sheets.
It's pretty common.
It is. Pretty much every time we have a wrestler, we end up front page of the Dirt Sheets. It is relatively common, but that is because we are an editorial show. The premise of a show like this is for Lonzo and I to give our opinions on things. And the reality is, based on a million different scenarios, the reality is that sometimes all our opinions about one entity will be positive, or all of our opinions about one entity will be negative. And on top of that, your perspective on our opinions may be different from what they actually are, depending on the perspective that you're looking at it through. But these shows are based on that. And I'm not even mad, for instance, about the regular day-to-day show that this particular individual is on doing his shtick every day, because it is an editorial show, an opinion-based show. Where you lose me is in a different spot. For instance, when we carry a Furman basketball game as the home of Furman sports, or we carry a Furman football game as the voice of Furman sports, yes, we are doing it for Furman. We have a financial, contractual, and very friendly relationship with Furman. But ESPN is not a Knicks station. And so when you go to an NBA playoff game, a Game 7, and it is very, very clearly a pro-Knicks environment, that is a national outlet covering an NBA game and making it look and feel and sound as if it is a Madison Square Garden pregame show. And I came on and I said, I thought that they embarrassed themselves. That was the word I went with. And then after some conversations with some folks, we got into it, and I thought maybe it is my jealousy. Maybe it is my envy. Maybe I think I should be in that spot. And that's why I have this take. And then another broadcaster that I very much enjoy, I very much respect, I very much appreciate, and frankly, a guy that, correct me if I'm wrong here, great one, I think Dan Patrick is a pretty well-respected guy in the sports media brandscape, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
A pioneer in a lot of ways.
I don't think I've ever heard anybody say they don't like Dan Patrick. And Dan Patrick's been around as long as I've been alive. And I don't think I've heard a bad word about Dan Patrick. And then Dan Patrick went on his podcast / show, and he said,
now we turn our attention to ESPN's New York Knicks, who lost in Game 7 to the Pacers. You know, Pacers did play in the game. I just want to let ESPN know. If you want to buy into East Coast bias, you have every reason to buy into ESPN's East Coast bias watching that game. How about some impartiality here? Okay. I was embarrassed for ESPN because it felt like it was all about the Knicks. Even at halftime, it was about the Knicks. The Pacers aren't exciting. I get it. You know, not big names, not a sexy team. But you still have to cover the game. You got to be fair. I don't need a Stephen A. Smith arrival video. I don't need a pep talk with him and Spike Lee. He doesn't work for the Knicks. You work for ESPN. I was really surprised. And I didn't care who won. But after that, I was rooting for the Pacers. I thought, you know what? Let's make this uncomfortable for you.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. 100%. I found myself a Pacers fan by the end of that game for that exact reason, and I am very glad that Dano decided to call him out like that.
So will they go the other way during the Indiana game? Will they be all gung-ho for Indiana?
No, because who are they up against? The Boston Celtics, another East Coast legacy team. Now, the difference is Screamin' A. And now that Dan Patrick has revealed who it is that we're talking about, because it was a very heavily guarded secret yesterday.
Yeah, a lot of people trying to figure it out. Some good guesses, some bad guesses. Yeah.
I left it up to you all to see through the mystery yesterday, and I don't think any of you did. I don't think any of you figured out I was talking about SAS.
The veil was thick. It was hard to get through.
For sure. Who's the man behind the mask? So Boston doesn't have a representative on that network, or at least not one that they're willing to put on the big show. They got what's his name on the McAfee show. I think he's got a Boston guy on there, but
Boston Connor, I believe.
Yeah. They don't have a guy on that network that they have pumped up to the stature of Screamin' A. However, as Dan pointed out there, the Pacers aren't sexy. They got Tyrese Maxey, and they got a bunch of dudes that if you only watch basketball for the stars, don't jump off the page at you. And I would go so far as to say that if we ran that series back and the Knicks were 100%, the Knicks win that series. But the Knicks weren't 100%. They didn't have those stars out there. They were missing some guys, and they lost some guys in that game, and then they lost the game. And it was just a little bothersome. It was a little frustrating for me. And I know that people are going, what do you care, Rob? It's a Knicks-Pacers game. You got no dog in the fight. You know how I've spent the last handful of off seasons saying to you guys that one of the things that absolutely drives me bananas is the fact that I am a fan of a small market basketball team. And I am a fan of a market that is never going to be a big market basketball team. The New Orleans Pelicans are never going to rival the LA Lakers or the Clippers or the Knicks or the Nets or the Bulls. They're never going to rival those teams. We're never going to have the arena. We're never going to have the budget. We're never going to have the stars. We're never going to have the fans. We're never going to have the city. Because while I will go to the grave just screaming that New Orleans, Louisiana is absolutely the best city on planet Earth. It just is. And if you've been there, you agree with me. I also recognize that it is a city that is with a lot of faults. It is a city with a lot of problems. It is a city that those of us that are from there will forever have a love for in our heart, while also looking at it and going, you're the drunk uncle of cities. I need you to be better sometimes. NOLA, we're just never going to have the people, the population, or the capital to be up there with a New York or with a Chicago or with an LA. And so all those times that I've come on here and ranted about the fact that it's like, I don't even get to wait till the end of the preseason. I had that clown on ESPN trying to force Zion out of New Orleans, and where? To the Knicks. Like before the playoffs began. The morning after the Pellies got bounced in round one, I click on to the 4-letter, and what do I have but that goofball on TV going, if you want to be successful, you got to be a Knick. And it's like, do you though? Like, what if, hear me out on this, what if you all stop talking to half the league? Maybe if you didn't just go out there and make a playoff game 7, it's supposed to be the most exciting thing in sports, is a playoff game 7, the most exciting thing in sports. Maybe if instead of taking the most exciting thing that could happen in the NBA playoffs, a game 7, and tuning it in to an absolute Knicks circle, you know what, amongst yourselves, then maybe some other teams could actually compete. And here's a year where the NBA's parity, we're going to talk about this later on in the radio broadcast because the numbers have come in on this. The NBA's parity is as good as it's been in 30 years. The parity is unbelievable right now. And look at the conference finals. You'll see it. The parity is out of this world right now. And yet, you came into this game and you embarrassed yourself. ESPN, you embarrassed yourself because you made it a Knicks show during a game 7. Why? Why are you making life harder for 90% of fans who aren't Knicks fans? Show some impartiality. As Dan Patrick said, you embarrassed yourselves. And I feel totally validated that I have a take that Dan Patrick shared within hours. I assume he listens to the show, but I could be wrong. Rob Alonzo with you. The Rob Brown Show is rolling on. We got plenty to talk about here this morning. It is the Fan Upstate.
Prize Picks.
All right, guys, quick live read, and I'm coming right back. Stay right there for me. Ladies and gentlemen, America's most popular fan. right, dudes and dudettes, welcome in. Happy Tuesday. How's everybody? Do. Where is my mouse? Golly.
And a range of treatment options, including trusted generic alternatives to the name brands, at up to 95% off. ED is personal, and at Hims, so is treatment. Just go to hims.com/joy and get connected to a licensed medical provider online for free, with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversation. To start your free online visit, you need to go to
Day 2 of migraine. Apologize for being cranky.
I didn't know you were working on a migraine.
I'm trying not to complain.
eBay Motors is here for the ride with the parts you need at the prices you want. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, they're guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time.
Who knows? It could be blood pressure related because my face is really red. It has been all morning.
Can't wait to hear what's next on Wire to Wire with Colin.
Me neither.
Tell me what's coming up.
We'll rank our top ACC and SEC quarterbacks.
Ooh. Ooh.
Were the Braves able to avoid the sweep against San Diego?
They were.
Barely.
They were, though. Yeah.
Barely.
A win's a win. No, say it's not so. Okay, I'm there.
Turn it on and leave it on.
Afternoons 3 to 7 on the Fan Upstate.
Early birds get the sports scoop. The Rob Brown Show now mornings.
So segueing out of something that I brought up in the last segment, one of the things that has driven me crazy about the media coverage of the NBA the last couple of years has been the fact that it is very clearly slanted in favor of a few teams. And it takes something very special to get a team from not one of those few teams, not just covered, but like covered with any level of significance. It took Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee to get the Bucks onto the national scene. It takes Nikola Jokic, a 3 out of 4 year NBA MVP winner, frankly, 4 out of 4, if you ask me, to get the Denver Nuggets into that conversation, and a championship in the midst, obviously.
It took the dating habits of a tight end to get Kansas City on every page.
Okay. All right. Back-to-back Super Bowl champion. Maybe let's relax on that one just a little bit. Also,
It's like a small market, isn't it? In Kansas City, a small market.
for sure.
Is it not? I don't know. I've never been there. I'm guessing it is.
I don't know, but I don't. You can play the disrespect card. You don't get to play the we don't get enough coverage card. I can't turn a channel.
No. Before that, they didn't get the coverage that they have now. I'm just saying certain factors can jump in that will cause more coverage.
I don't disagree. And when it comes to the NBA, for a team like a Denver, like a Milwaukee, it takes something special. There will be a new champion in the 2024 NBA season. We know that. The Nuggets got bounced in Game 7 by the Timberwolves. When you look at the 4 major North American pro sports leagues, the NBA has been the one league that has seen multiple repeat champions over the years. Since 1998, it has happened just twice in the NHL Stanley Cup. The MLB has not had a repeat champion this millennium. The last ones to do it were the 98-99 and 99-2000 Yankees. The Chiefs just did it. The Patriots did it back in 03-04. It's a little less common in the NFL, but it still happens. Since 1995, the NBA, has had not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 teams winning consecutive championships. And that does not include the San Antonio Spurs winning 5 titles from 99 through 2013. The Bulls did it 96, 97, 98. Some of you may remember that. The Lake Show did it 2000, 2001, 2002. The Lakers did it again in 2009 and 2010. The Heat did it in 2012 and 2013. And the Warriors did it in 2017 and 2018. The Lakers or the Spurs won the Western Conference in 12 of the 15 seasons between 99 and 2013, including 7 consecutive years from 99 through 2005. The Heat went to the NBA Finals 4 straight years from 2011 through 2014. The Warriors reached the NBA Finals 5 consecutive seasons from 2015 through 2019, and then ran it back in 2022. The Warriors and the Cavs squared off in the NBA Finals in 2015, 16, 17, and 18. 4 straight years of not just a repeat champ, but a repeat finals matchup. I said about halfway through this season that it felt at the time to me like the NBA was at the highest level of parity that it had had in years. The Celtics and the Pacers meet in the East. Over in the West, the Mavs and the Timberwolves. The Celtics have won a record 17 titles, but they have not won one since 2008. That was their first since 1986. The Timberwolves are in the Western Conference Finals for the first time since 2004. They have 0 NBA Finals appearances. The Mavericks have 2 NBA Finals appearances all time. The last time they won a title was in 2011. One of these 4 teams will be the 6th different champion in 6 seasons. Only one other time in league history has there been 6 different champs in a 6-year span. For that, you got to go back to 1975 and 1980. Not only have there been 5 different champions in the last 5 years, but none of those teams made it past the second round of the playoffs the next season. So there has not only not been a successful title defense in 6 years, but there hasn't even been a team that's really gotten close to that so far. You have had the 2019 Raptors, the 2020 Lakers. Remember, that was the COVID bubble. The 2021 Bucks with Giannis, the 22 Warriors, the 23 Nuggets, and this year the Celtics, the Pacers, the Wolves, or the Mavericks. And we don't know which one yet, but whoever wins it, it's going to be the first one that they have won maybe ever, or at least in a long time. The league has the highest level of parity that the league has had since 1975. We are starting to see talent spread around. And I have chalked this up to some degree to the fact that super teams have kind of fallen out of fashion a little bit. Not entirely, but a little bit. The Denver Nuggets have built up the Denver Nuggets. The LA Lakers tried to build a super team. They did win a championship in 2020 with the AD LeBron combo. But I would also point out that they really haven't done anything since then. And a lot of people want to put the asterisk on the COVID bubble championship. I don't care. You went through what every other team in the league did, and you won the championship. It's an earned title. But look around the league. Would you define the Dallas Mavericks as a super team? I would not.
They do have 2 superstars on the team.
They sure do. But I would also argue one of the things that to me makes you a super team is when more of your stars are brought in as established stars than are homegrown. Luka Doncic is a Dallas Maverick.
So you cannot be a homegrown super team.
No, you can be, but I
Golden State would beg to differ.
Absolutely. And that's why I don't beat up on Golden State. like a lot of people do, because Golden State grew their super team around Steph Curry. That is part of the reason that the Denver Nuggets don't get beat up for that, because they grew their team around Nikola Jokic and Jamal Murray. Hell, the Boston Celtics, by and large, grew their team naturally. The Oklahoma City Thunder are growing their team naturally. The Indiana Pacers are growing their team naturally. Hell, the Knicks, who've been taking crap from me, have by and large built their own team. And I think there's something to be said for that. So the super team concept of let's go raid the Cleveland Cavaliers and get their one superstar player down here to Miami. That I'm not going to say it's fallen out. Somebody else pointed out yesterday, it was me, that, well, I didn't point it out. Somebody on the internet pointed it out, and then I ran with it. Of the 15 highest paid players in the National Basketball Association, 14 of them season are over. There is one active player in the playoffs still on the top 15 highest paid players list. Do you know who it is? The Rob Brown Show Home Edition. Grab your pencil, write down your answers. Let's get them locked in. Who is the only player in the top 15 highest paid NBA players list that is still active in the playoffs? Are we ready? Pencils down. The answer is Rudy Gobert. Rudy Gobert. By the way, Rudy Gobert, excellent defensive player, sure. Not exactly a guy that you sign in because he's going to score 11 points for your team in a given night. If Rudy Gobert gets to 18, he had a good game. The super team concept is falling out of style, and I think it's for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's not working, not like it used to. Number two, when you bring a guy in to build a super team, you got to pay a hell of a lot of money. When you grow guys within your program, the developmental stage of their career, you usually get them for a little cheaper long term. So with that concept falling away, and with, I think, more teams looking at what the Spurs did during the Ginobili, Duncan, Parker run, I think more teams are looking and going, yeah, we should probably try that. We should probably make a run at that. Then maybe that's something we should do. And it's working. And it has, to me, increased parity across the National Basketball Association. It has increased parity around the NBA, and it has made it better. And this is why, to harken back to the last segment, this is why I get bummed out when I tune in for a Game 7 between a Pacers team that is doing it that way, that is building up, that is developing young players, that is building an exciting young core, and maybe arrived just a little ahead of schedule. And what do I get but a clown show of a New York Knicks pregame and a New York Knicks halftime, and that guy doing pep rallies for the Knicks alongside Spike? Why? I am frustrated because it's like they actively want to sabotage what has been one of the most competitive and, to me, entertaining years of NBA basketball in a very, very long time. Let's take a break. Your thoughts are welcome on the renewal by Anderson to the Carolinas fan phone, 844-326-3663. Kev's hanging on. We'll get to him and the rest of y'all when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Oh, I have to pee. I'm sure you were all concerned about me.
Good morning, Stephen. How are you today?
Mercer faces VMI. The SEC baseball tournament today, South Carolina takes on Alabama. It's LSU against Georgia. Florida battles Vanderbilt. Mississippi State faces Ole Miss. Bundle auto and home, renters or condo, and save with Progressive. Download the Odyssey app, search the Fan Upstate, and listen anywhere on your
Major headache, so probably not going to be a lot of chatter from me.
Hey everyone, it's Ted from Consumer Cellular, the guy in the orange sweater, and this is your wake-up call. If you're paying too much for wireless service, you don't have to keep having that nightmare. Consumer Cellular has the same fast, reliable coverage as the leading carriers for less. And for a limited time, new customers receive their second month free when they sign up and use promo code MONTHFREE by May 31st. So why keep spending more than you have to? Seriously, wake up and call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com.
Access fee to the third party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
If you need bold banners to boost your business, but you're on a budget, think Staples. Posters, flyers, signs, and menus for less? Think Staples. Staples can print anything you need to move your business forward. Now at Staples, save $50 on your print purchase of $150 or more. Same-day service available on hundreds of items if you order by noon. And all backed by Staples' Print Perfect guarantee. So it's done right or it's printed again free. Staples, your local print and marketing expert. M61, visit staples.com/print for details. Hey everyone, it's Boomer Esiason here. Superchargers, headlights, and more. With over 122 million parts, eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Stay on your game, all with the parts you need at the prices you want. It's easy to bring home and get it. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
From the Eagles Market Studio.
Punch your ticket to the best local community. 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 FM Spartanburg. We're streaming wherever you are on the Odyssey. Talk to Robin Lonzo. Call
The Rob Brown Show continues here in hour number one of the foremost electrifying hours in sports talk entertainment every single weekday from 6 to 10 a.m. Glad you're here. Glad Kevin's here. He's hanging out on the phone line, wants to talk a little basketball with us this a.m. Kev, what's up, big fella?
Shit, going ham already, bro.
That's what we do, buddy.
Losing my mind this morning, going a little crazy. Left my wallet at the house, turned around, went back, left my phone at the house, turned around, and went back. So I done started my day, I guess, the right way. I'm loose now. I'm ready to go get it.
I like it. Let's be real. You just
that's a good thing.
You just did that, so you got to spend more time in the car listening to the show. I appreciate that, Kev.
Boom, straight like that. There we go.
I like it. What you got, big dog?
Man, hey man, this is basketball. I love NBA, but I really don't like to watch it till now because now you showing me what you get paid to do, and really show it to me. But I tell you what, Minnesota, it's been 20 years since you take the energy that KG put out. I see that same thing in Ant. I see the same thing. The dog, the getting hype, and all that good stuff, man. I love it. I love it to death. And to see what's my man's name? Oh man, Jokic just lean on people and do what he do. But I tell you what, them boys in Minnesota play some basketball. Rudy, I wish they'd get a little bit more physical, but I think that's just the way of the game now. Like if in the 90s, if Jokic would have backed somebody down, you're not gonna get 11 dribbles to the goal, man. That's just something that's always bothered me. 11 dribbles, and they just keep letting. I'm gonna shoot your elbow to the back of the head or something. Like you're not gonna dribble 11 times. Because once you dribble 3 times, I hit you in the back of the head. One of these elbows are in the rib. You're gonna stop that dribbling and figure out you another move. But I'm just glad they got beat because I want to see somebody different in these playoffs do something every year. Now don't get me wrong, if my Lakers was in it, I love it. But I just like to see somebody do something different.
It's nice, right? Like it's nice. And to me, when it feels like it's wide open. And it does right now. We're about to get our 6th different champion in 6 years. It is the longest stretch of 0 repeat champs since the mid-70s into the early 80s, Kev. When that happens, to me, what it does is it generates for a lot of other teams, I hope, this mindset of, why not us, right? Like, why not us next? Right. As opposed to what a lot of teams, like I'll tell you as a small market team, as a Pelicans fan, and I can go back to when we traded Anthony Davis to LA. When that move happened, we as Pelicans fans went, all right, 6 more years of waiting to find our next superstar to have like 2 years of opportunity, right? And now I look at it and I go, well, if Oklahoma City can hit on SGA, and all of a sudden they're a Western Conference semifinals team. If Dallas can get a Derek Lively, a guy none of us talked about coming into the league this year, has turned out to be one of the better rim protectors in the NBA, and he's got, along with Daniel Gafford and Luka, obviously, he's got Dallas in the Western Conference Finals. If those teams can make that move and just you can get close enough that one guy hitting can take you from pretender to contender, I hope that what it does is it takes the teams like New Orleans and it takes the teams like the Bulls and it takes all of these teams that have been on the outskirts for so long and it makes them go, we don't have to wait and build for 6 years and save up a bunch of cash to give it one shot. We can build a team. We can find the right rooks and the young guys and build a team around a guy, which is part of the reason I think the Pelicans are looking at trading Brandon Ingram, because he's up there in the years at this point. And if you go grab yourself 2, 3, 4 draft picks, you just got to hit on a Derek Lively and you're right back into the conversation. And that to me is why I'm so excited about the parity in the league right now.
I love it, man. And you think about it. New Orleans, man, with the team they got, and how Brandon Ingram came along since he left the Lakers, like, what are they missing? It's one thing, a point guard. What is they missing to really get over the top? Because they play hard, and like a lot of teams in the NBA now, you got pretty decent teams out there now, man. So it's just the talent is spreading out, and then things are getting better. You don't have that one Michael Jordan or that one Kobe or there's people like that that's just gonna be on that one team. Everybody's balling now.
Yeah,
Before
and listen.
I
Go ahead.
Something for the Clemson fans, real quick.
Go ahead.
If Brad Brownell, Brad, if Brad can hit this portal and make his team better, why Dabo can't do the same thing?
I'm glad you brought that up, Kevin, because yesterday Dabo had something to say about that, and we are going to address that coming up in the next hour. So stick around, but make sure you forget something else in your house that you got to go back and get, Kevin, because then you'll be able to hear it.
Right, I got you.
Appreciate you, big dog. Kevin checking in. I appreciate it. He brings up the whole one superstar philosophy thing, right? And Lonzo, if I asked you right now to name me the face of the Minnesota Timberwolves, who's your answer?
The Anthony Davis?
It's Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards. It's Ant-Man.
Well, Anthony Edwards, my bad. And I hadn't heard of him till lately.
It's Ant-Man. Yeah, he broke on the scene, and he's been good. Now, he's been there a couple of years, but the Timberwolves this year were able to hit on the right chemistry. The addition of Rudy Gobert as a defender coming over from Utah was absolutely enormous. I think that Anthony Edwards unlocked Karl Anthony Towns. You got the best year you've had from him so far. If you haven't seen the press conference they did after they won Game 7, go find it. It's free. The two of those guys are freaking hilarious. I played it yesterday in the Fortress of Nerditude, and even Captain America Chris Evans down the hall, not a basketball guy, was cracking up listening to these two idiots. It was amazing, right? They were like, Cat, Ant-Man, they say that you gotta lose before you can win. How you feel about that? Karl Anthony Towns looked at this guy and goes, dog, we lost last year in the playoffs. We literally already lost. And you can hear the reporter like not know where to go from that. And he goes, well, they say you got to lose big. And Ant-Man goes, we done lost like 6 years in a row. How much more y'all want us to lose? It was like this great moment. But I would agree. Ant-Man is the face of the Timberwolves. However, it took Rudy Gobert to unlock this team. It's a very similar team to last year. But they put they put Rudy Gobert down underneath as a rim protector. It opened up the game of Karl-Anthony Towns. The Karl-Anthony Towns unlocked Ant-Man Edwards. And all of a sudden, this team is damn good. And this is what I'm hanging on. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm saying. To me, if a team like Minnesota can do it with a homegrown team of Cat and Ant-Man, and then they added one star, they added Rudy Gobert. That's what unlocked this team. If you are a team like a New Orleans, if you're a team like Oklahoma City did it. A little disappointed with where they ended up, I'm sure, but they lost to a Dallas Mavericks team that added Kyrie. And now all of a sudden, that unlocks Luka. They go get Derek Lively, a young man who has become a stellar rim protector. That allowed Daniel Gafford, because when Daniel Gafford's a guy that's got to play 35, 37 minutes in a game, he kind of has to he's got to slow up a little bit. But now being able to alternate between Gafford and Lively, now I can just say, Daniel Gafford, go give me 4 good minutes right now. I need you just absolutely ball it out for 4 minutes. And then you're going to catch a breather. And Lively's going to go in and he'll ball out for 4. And they found that combination, and that combination worked. And here come the Dallas Mavericks, right back to the NBA's Western Conference Finals. What is being shown right now across the NBA, to me, is that any team can be good. Any team can be good. I am intrigued over the next couple of years because I think one of the things that's about to happen is we are about to get a renewed sense of importance from general managers. Brad Stevens comes off of the coaching box, heads up to the administrative office of the Boston Celtics. And he becomes exec of the year. Why? Look at the team that he built in Boston. And yes, Boston's been close a bunch of times, and Boston has yet to finish. I get it. Boston has yet to finish. But they've been damn close a number of times, and maybe it's just me. But as much as I, on this show and other shows that I have done over the past handful of months, as much as I have said that I'll trust Boston when Boston gives me a reason to trust them, this kind of feels like a different Boston team right now, right? Like it kind of feels like a different Boston team. The win in the finals, yes, they have gotten the easiest draw of anybody in the playoffs, but they lost 4 times at home in the regular season. Even for a team that chokes, that's pretty impressive. They lost 4 times at home in the regular season. It is the NBA playoffs, and even when teams are dinged up, a la the New York Knicks, there's still NBA players on the other roster. One of the things Cody Decker loves to point out, and I've adopted this from him because he's spot on about it, is when we talk about baseball teams, and we talk about a bad baseball team, we talk about a Chicago White Sox or Colorado Rockies. Deck loves to point out that even though this team is bad, you are still talking about an organization that has a group of 20 some odd of the best baseball players on planet Earth. 20 some odd of the 1% of the 1% of the best baseball players on planet Earth. NBA teams are the same way. The worst team in the league still has 15 of the best basketball players on planet Earth on the bench at any given point. And sometimes it's just a matter of that one thing. I just gave you the illustration with Dallas. The illustration with Denver is right there. The illustration with the Timberwolves is right there. Derek White might be the illustration for the Boston Celtics. Because the Tatum Brown thing has been pretty good the last couple of years, but just not good enough. And then out of nowhere comes D. White. And D. White kind of looks like maybe he was the missing piece that has allowed those two guys to really unlock what they're capable of. Every team has got to be looking at the teams that are good right now and thinking to themselves, why not us? There's a chance. And I know, for instance, that on paper, this year's draft is not very good. This year's draft is lacking in Victor Wembanyama's, in Brandon Miller's, in Scoot Henderson's, in Amen Thompson's. It's lacking in those guys. But I would like to point out to you that it was the 12th overall selection of last year that led Derek Lively to become a member of the Oklahoma City Thunder. It was the 18th overall selection that sent Jacquez Jr. to the Miami Heat. It was the 19th selection that sent Brandon Podziemski to the Warriors. I mean, I'm looking down the list of guys who made a name for themselves in the NBA this year, and there are guys down in the 20s and the 30s that were contributors. G.G. Jackson got taken 45th overall by the Grizz. And when Ja went down, G.G. was one of the only things that kept Memphis from being an embarrassment. So I know the draft is a little thin this year, but the parity across the league to me is not just good for our entertainment. And again, if you're not entertained by this NBA season, if you're not entertained by these NBA playoffs, you're just not a basketball guy. And that's okay. Not every sport's for everybody. But the good news is the parity isn't just for our entertainment. The parity also should spark a mindset that we can be Boston, we can be OKC, we can be Minnesota, we can be Denver. We just got to hit. GMs are about to see their importance skyrocket in the NBA because of what is happening right now in this season. All right, coming up in the next hour of the show, we got your water cooler cheat sheet, top 3 sports stories you need to know before you get to the office today, and then the comments of Dabo Swinney, because I got to tell you, at some point, I'm kind of like, Dabo, maybe just stop talking about the portal for a few minutes. Maybe just say, hey, you know what? I've addressed it. I'm not addressing it any further.
I was going to say, not to defend Dabo, but people keep asking him the question, is he just supposed to Bill Belichick it? I guess he could. Not in his nature, though.
I mean, it's absolutely not. And there was one clip that started going around on Twitter that I kind of want to bring back up. It was from a few days ago and have a little conversation about it. So we'll talk about that coming up in the next hour. But before we get to any of that, before we entertain you to levels beyond your wildest imaginations, Lonzo is going to do that, but better with his sports flash.
It's a struggle bus. I'm driving it. The Stanley Cup Conference Finals are set after a 3-2 Edmonton win over Vancouver last night. The Oilers held a 3-0 lead into the third period until Connor Garland and Flip Hronek got two back, but the Canucks were unable to find the equalizer. Edmonton will take on Dallas in the Western Conference Finals starting Thursday. On the other side of the bracket, the Florida Panthers and New York Rangers begin the Eastern Conference Finals tomorrow night. The NBA playoffs continue tonight at 8 with the Eastern Conference Finals between Indiana and Boston. Boston opens as a double-digit favorite in the game and a -900 favorite to win the series outright. The Western Conference Finals begins tomorrow night at 8:30 with the Timberwolves favored over the Mavericks by 5. And make sure you tune in this afternoon from 3 to 7 for a brand new local show, Wire to Wire. Cole Bryson and Diesel get you up to date on the latest local and national sports news. Great guests, great debate, and a whole lot of fun. And it's all Wire to Wire.
You know how the British say aluminium and we make fun of it?
Yes.
I just learned that they say metamorphosis as metamorphosis, and it bothers me a lot.
Yeah, I think I've heard that before. First time I heard aluminium was a lecture at recording school, and a guy was in from England and was doing a tech thing, and no one in the room knew what he was saying. And finally, someone rose their hand and said, "What are you saying? What is aluminium?" And then he had to struggle with it to say aluminum. And then it's like, oh, okay.
So apparently, both, and we've had this discussion on the air, I think, but both aluminum and aluminium are accepted spellings of that word. We spell it with no I, and they spell it with an I, and they're both accepted as correct.
Which country invented aluminum?
It's a naturally occurring element.
I know.
Unlike when Ben Franklin invented electricity, which makes it American.
That's what Mama said. No, actually, Mama was the one who created electricity. Playing back to back. Rob Brown and oh no, I got the wrong thing. Hurry, Reitzel, before you screw this up. There we go. Couldn't concentrate enough to find something else. So if he's listening, let's just do that.
As of right now, North Carolina, Virginia, the other schools that are linked with possibly wanting out of the ACC, we're just going to sit back, let Florida State and Clemson take all the heat, let them spend all the money and the legal fees to figure this out, let them sue the league, let the league sue them back. They are going to sit on their hands and not do a damn thing. Which kind of feels like how they've operated football-wise in the past decade and a half, right? They're going to let Clemson and Florida State do all the heavy lifting.
This isn't on air. They're writing their stuff.
And then swoop in at the last minute and say, hey, look, we're with you. It's a brilliant strategy. You don't have to.
Is that legit? You think so?
It makes them look sick.
Wire to Wire with Diesel and Cole Bryson.
Turn on, leave on. Afternoons 3 to 7.
I mean,
It was a method created back in the day.
oh, I know. I've known plenty of folks
by,
who have done it.
No, by a certain host that used to be on these airwaves. And not the one you're thinking of. Because
Well,
that guy could riff at
I've-
any moment.
I have worked with hosts.
Yeah, it's maybe people don't notice like I do, but you know.
Yeehaw! That was an aggressive yeehaw out of the gate. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back.
That's an aggressive.
That is an aggressive yeehaw. You are not wrong. Welcome back to Rob Brown Show's on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Spectacular to have you, my friends. I am Rob Brown, the great one, Lonzo on the other side of the metaphorical glass, slapping the sign and playing like a champion today. As you were, the number of migraines I've had in my life is countable on one hand, but they're debilitating for me. And yet here sits the great one, Lonzo, fighting the good fight, captain of the struggle bus this AM, and yet the show's on the air and sounding as spectacular as it always does.
We are under the gun everywhere. So, I mean, it would have to be, I would have to be unable to drive to let this stop me from, I may say some things that are really stupid, more so than usual, but
I mean, I do it all the time. I've made a career out of it.
Most people probably won't notice. So we're good.
Fair enough. It is 7:01 in the morning. You are 58 minutes and 8 seconds away from clocking into work. And once you get there, I know your objective. It is not that big project that the boss handed you. I know that. It is not making sure that client lunch meeting goes well. You've already done that. Your first objective is just make it a little while so you can take that first break. So you can walk down the hallway, so you can go meet your buddy Tim from accounts receivable, because he's your sports guy, right? He's your golfing buddy on the weekends, and he's your sports buddy at work. And you're going to want to sit there, and you're going to want to talk some sports. Well, if you're going to want to talk some sports, you're going to need to know what's going on in the world of sports. And if you need to know what's going on in the world of sports, well, we've got your back. That's why we do this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
"Oh, man, I don't know what's that."
Before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the water cooler cheat sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is the water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 sports stories that you need to know before you get to the office and start talking sports with your friends or your coworkers or your friendly coworkers, your workplace proximity associates, whoever it is you talk sports with. This is what you'll be talking about.
You can talk sports with frenemies. I mean, frenemies implies you got something in common, and maybe sports is it.
You got any real frenemies? Like a real frenemy?
I think everyone's my frenemy. It depends on what day it is. So, I mean,
that's fair.
Adversarial relationships is radio, I think.
You're not entirely wrong. You're not. Like a good frenemy can bring out the best version of you, can also bring out the worst. Sometimes it's the same version. Let's get to item number 1, shall we? Big meetings happening right now that could impact, could shape, could change the future of college football. The industry's top leaders are gathering right now to discuss the potential settlement of the House v. NCAA suit. And if a settlement is accepted, not only would a $2.7 billion payout be authorized to former college athletes to compensate what has been labeled by the court system as damages for preventing their ability to effectively make money using their name, image, and likeness. But this settlement would also mark the end of 2 other major federal antitrust lawsuits as well, and would lead to a big-time change, including, down the line, a future revenue sharing system, a revenue split system between schools and athletes. It would create potentially trust funds at schools that wish to be involved, up to around $22 million a year. That is something that schools can say, we don't really want to be involved. I'm going to go ahead and tell you, you're going to put yourself on the back foot if you are not involved, if you do not go ahead and set up one of those trust funds in order to help compensate your athletes for their time, energy, effort, etc., further than you already are, for the few of you that were firing up those texting fingers to the text line at 71307. Start your text with fan. We'll read them on the air. We don't know if the settlement's going to be accepted. Yes, we do. It is. We don't know when the settlement will be accepted. By Thursday, we do. But that conversation starts today. And this probably would not have been as big of a story. I mean, it is obviously, and I mean this, great one. I feel like I've said this expression probably 6 or 7 times since the Rob Brown show began back in its old noon to 3 time slot 4.5 years ago. I feel like I've used this expression a lot, and I don't feel like I've ever been wrong at any point. It is a wonderful illustration of why Lonzo doesn't use the term GOAT. He uses the term GOAT so far because there's always the possibility that something comes along later that is bigger, better, more important. And I think this is one of those times. When the transfer portal went into play, I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the biggest thing that's ever happened to college football predominantly, but really sports as a whole. And then, not terribly long after that, name, image, and likeness rules went into place. And I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is the biggest story to ever happen to college sports. And I don't think I was wrong about that. Well, let me do it one more time again. This settlement, ladies and gentlemen, is the biggest thing that's ever happened in college sports. It is bigger than the portal. It is bigger than NIL. I absolutely believe that whatever the next iteration of college sports is, predominantly college football, maybe college basketball, it happens in the next 3 days. It happens as this settlement is being discussed. Now, I said it wouldn't have been a big story until yesterday. Really Saturday, but we were back on the air yesterday, so we'll say yesterday. I said it wouldn't have been a big story because ultimately at this point, it's widely accepted the settlement's happening. If only because of the difference between a $30+ billion payout if they were to outright lose these 3 cases and a less than $3 billion payout if they hit the settlement. And somebody asked me, Rob, what's the difference between those two? And I said, I don't know, about $27.3 billion, which is, and this is true, a lot of money. It's a lot. It wouldn't have been a big story except for on Saturday, the chief of the Big East, which is a conference that has a couple of schools with football teams, but that's a basketball conference. That is a conference that's revenue is driven solely by basketball. The Big East put out an email that said, we kind of have a massive problem with this settlement. And the massive problem that we have with this settlement is the fact that it disproportionately impacts teams in the Big East. It disproportionately impacts non-FBS Power 4 schools. And I don't know that it's going to make a difference because at the end of the day, the power goes to he who has the gold. That is the golden rule. He who has it makes the rules. So I don't know what impact it's going to have, if any. But I do wonder if the smaller conferences, the FCS conferences that are involved in these discussions, having an issue with the settlement structure will force any changes to what has been commonly accepted as the most likely settlement structure. We'll find out. Conversation starting today in earnest about reaching that settlement. We'll talk about it more later on in the show. Let's get to item numero dos. This is a major summer for United States men's national team football. You have got the Copa America coming up later on. You've got a couple of friendlies against 2 very good teams in Colombia and Brasilia scheduled for mid-June. And then, of course, you are spending time working towards the 2026 World Cup. Around this time next year, we'll be having conversations about World Cup qualifying. Not for us, we'll be in it, but you get it. This is about the point where you start building that momentum moving forward. Well, yesterday, the United States men's national soccer team put out its 27-player squad, and it might give you a bit of an indication as to who is headed to the Copa America. 3 goalkeepers include Ethan Horvath, Sean Johnston, and Matt Turner. You've got defenders includes Cameron Carter-Vickers is back. Shaq Moore at a Nashville SC makes the cut. Tim Ream on this roster. Miles Jedi Robinson is back, if only so we can say Jedi on the air a bunch more times. Tyler Adams will be holding down the midfield with Johnny Cardoso. Weston McKennie is listed here. Yunus Musa is back on this team. Hey, wouldn't you know it? Alongside Malik Tillman and Timmy Tillman in the midfield is Gio Reyna. Remember Gio and Greg had that dust up a couple of years ago. Well, Gio said it's all old news. Greg said that he has put it behind him as well. So Gio on the roster expected to get some PT. Brandon Aronson, Valerian Balogun, Ricardo Pepi, Christian Pulisic, Captain America, Tim Weah, Haji Wright, and all joined by Josh Sargent, who makes his return to the forward position for the U.S. men's national team. Rob, you just listed me a bunch of players. Why do I care? I care because this. Over the years, the United States men's national team has gone out of its way to lean on MLS players. And that's a big problem because the best players on this roster aren't playing in the MLS. It is one of the reasons that the MLS has struggled because the best players go overseas. That's where soccer is at its height. And it has been a frustrating situation that every year Gregiga would pick a bunch of players from MLS. Well, guys from European rosters were left off. And you went, there's better teams out there, Gregiga. I expect better from you, Gregiga. Well, I would like you to look up and down the roster right now. 2 of the 3 goalkeepers have European experience. In the defensive side, all but 2 of the guys on the defensive roster are playing overseas. In the midfield, all but, I believe, 1. I think Timmy Tillman is the only midfielder that is playing domestically for LAFC. In the forward portion of the field, there is, across the front line, 0 players that are playing domestically. They are all playing internationally. Is this a turning point for the U.S. men's national team? Is this the turning point where maybe they start leaning on guys that are cutting their teeth internationally in better leagues than MLS to start lifting our men's national team? I can't say yes, but what I can say is the roster is overwhelmingly composed of guys who are playing abroad. And I'd like to think that that means maybe after the last coaching search, maybe after it was made clear that the U.S. men's national team was in the hunt for a great manager and was looking internationally, that Gregiga is actually going to get serious about making the team good this time. We'll find out as we get closer. June 8th against Colombia, June 12th against Brasilia, and then on the 27th, we will find out who our Copa America roster includes. Let's finish up with item number 3. Going to pack a couple of basketball stories in here for item number 3. Let's start with Caitlin Clark. Rolled her ankle last night, had to miss a solid chunk of the first half of the matchup with the UConn. Why do I keep wanting to call them that? The Connecticut Sun. Had to sit, rolled the ankle up. As any of us that have dealt with rolled ankles before can tell you, that sucks like a lot. It's real hard to play on. And then ordinarily, inflammation around that ankle stiffens it up. Caitlin Clark did come back into the game. She scored 17 points, recorded 5 assists. However, the Fever fell 88-84 to the Sun. Clark was, during the injury, unable to get to her feet unassisted. She did limp to the locker room after being helped up. She was able to return in the third quarter. The Fever went on a bit of a run after she did, but just could not get there. The Fever have now a pair of losses to both the Sun and the New York Liberty. Here's the fun thing. Those 2 teams have a combined record of 7-0. They are the 2 best teams in the league. Caitlin Clark's team, the worst team in the league from last year, has 4 losses. All of them came from 2 of the 3 best teams in the league, the Las Vegas Aces being the 3rd. It's not panic time. For those of you that are writing her off, for those of you who are saying she's done, calm down. Relax. Take a note from Tay-Tay and just have a breather. Over in the NBA, the all-rookie team was announced yesterday. Now, I'm not just bringing this up to tell you, obviously, Victor Wembanyama is on this list, consensus. Obviously, Chet Holmgren is on this list from Oklahoma City, consensus. I'm bringing this up because of the 3rd highest vote getter, a guy who got 3 points fewer than Holmgren, than Wembanyama. Brandon Miller of the Charlotte Hornets got 97 first team votes. He got 1 second place vote. That brought him to 195 total points. That sits him behind only the 2-way tie, a consensus of Holmgren and Wembanyama. Brandon Miller was 2 votes away from being a consensus first-teamer. Jaime Jaquez Jr. of Miami was on that list, and Braden Podziemski of Golden State all made the first team. Derek Lively, Amen Thompson, Keontae George, Kason Wallace, and Gigi Jackson all made the All-NBA rookie second team. Brandon Miller of the Hornets is a foundational player. I told you that when you drafted him. I told you that halfway through the year when the Hornets were getting killed by injuries. Would you look at this? I said he's a foundational player. There's a rookie of the year guy right there. And of course, your NBA playoffs get tipped off this evening. Indiana is at Boston, an 8 p.m. tip on ESPN. Boston opens as a 10.5 point favorite. But whoa, golly, would you look at this? The line has moved down to 9.5 and edging towards 9. The over-under this game set at 220. So what do you take? Do you take an Indiana team that just went 7 against the Knicks and is just rolling into the next series after a couple of days of rest? Or do you take a Boston team that's been off for a week and a half? Rest versus rust. What matters more? We will find out tonight with the Pacers and the Celtics at 8 p.m. Let's take a break. When we come back, talk a little bit about this Dabo Swinney transfer portal thing, because welcome to the offseason, ladies and gentlemen. It is the biggest story in college football right now. So let's talk about it. Rob Lonzo and you, the Rob Brown Show rolls on after this. It is the Fan Upstate.
New life.
Quick read, guys, and be right back. Stay right there for me. All right, we're back, y'all. I rolled my ankle the day before prom playing basketball in high school and was on crutches for prom. I rolled my ankle, Jacob, in high school so many times that in my 20s, I went to the doctor and he made me not walk for like 5 weeks. I had to limit my walking for like 5 weeks because, in his words, your ankles do not have ligaments anymore. They just have loose ribbons around them. Like, it was just, they're so stretched out that they're better now, but they were so stretched out that they effectively were not doing anything. So my ankles would just flop around. I had floppy ankles. There's a sentence I've never said before.
Like when I was told I have a fluffy appendix. I mean, you know, it's so you walk like a droid.
I did. I had to wear 2 ankle braces on both ankles when I played basketball. I had to put an ankle brace. I had to put a like a fabric brace on, and then I had to put a wire brace on top of that to play basketball. Because if I had any momentum laterally, my ankle would just roll over. It got to the point where rolling my ankle stopped hurting. It just happened.
I had my ankles taped in football, but it was mostly because people kept stepping on me, and there's just blood everywhere from. It's brutal.
I have a scar on my shin from where a guy stepped on my shin with a metal baseball spike, and it just punched straight through, just right in. You could see the muscle. It was awful. I don't know about you, but I'm almost kind of over talking about Dabo in the transfer portal at this point. And let me tell you why. And then we'll get into the discussion that is ongoing. The reason why I'm kind of over talking about it is because there's nothing I'm going to say or you're going to say or we're going to say, or he's going to say, or she's going to say, or they're going to say, that's going to get Dabo to change his mind. Dabo is the type of cat that, and we all know this guy, and I'm not passing a judgment on it, I'm just giving you my opinion. Dabo's the kind of guy that is, in his opinion, he's never lost an argument. Dabo's the kind of guy that's never been wrong. And that's okay. I think you almost kind of have to have that attitude to some degree to be successful at the highest level of, frankly, anything. You've kind of got to have the attitude of, I'm the best at what I do. I know some people get frustrated at me because to some degree, I kind of have that attitude a little bit. But I have that attitude because I promise you, as Lonzo can attest, the things that people will say to and about you when you're in a very forward-facing industry, if you don't have a little bit of an ego, they will break you. And I know Dabo's kind of in that thought. So, the reason I'm kind of over talking about it is because A, nothing we say is going to change his opinion. And B, I've kind of reached a point where this year is make it or break it for Dabo Swinney. This year is the year that I think, or at least I should say to me, Dabo is going to prove that his philosophy is just fine or that it does not work in the modern era of college football. One or the other. Now, I do want to push pause for 1 second. Because we talked a little bit about this last week on the show. You will remember from the ACC meetings, the interview that Dabo did. And he said, you know, it wasn't intentional that we are one of only 4 teams to not take a transfer player, and the other 3 of them are military service academies, where if you wanted to transfer and play ball at a service academy, it literally takes an act of Congress. Literally, you have to have a congressional representative sponsor and endorse you. So the only school that's not a military academy to not take a transfer in. And then he went on and he made what I think was a little tongue-in-cheek joke about we just signed a whole class of transfers. They're all transferring from high school to college to be here. And
you can't even say it without something dripping.
Well, again, I think he said it tongue-in-cheek because I'm going to be real with you. The longer this goes on, the more I think Dabo's kind of a troll a little bit. I really think he says these things just to rile up the college football fan base.
If you watch the clip, he's smirking.
100%.
Yeah, so of course he's trolling.
100%. So, before we go further down that path, there is a subsect of Clemson fans that I would like to speak to for a minute. The subsect of Clemson fans are the fans who, after we had that conversation last week, said, Rob Brown, you act like Dabo didn't win us 2 titles. Rob Brown, you act like Dabo didn't go 69-5 from 2015 to 2019 and bring home a couple of natties. No. I do act like that. Is that good enough for you? Are you okay with not being on top of the college football landscape anymore? And if the answer to that question is yes, if for you, you are more concerned with representation, you are more concerned with history, you are more concerned with celebrating the 2 you got as opposed to the next one that you don't, this conversation's not for you. It doesn't matter to you. None of this matters to you. So this conversation's not for you. I'm not telling you to go anywhere. I don't want you to leave the show. But if you were the dude that was hitting me last week with, Rob, we were 69-5 over 71 games. We won 2 national championships. We cranked out a ton of first-round draft picks. That is spectacular, and you should be proud of that. But if that is where you are hanging your hat moving into 2024, then the next handful of minutes of radio ain't for you because you don't care.
That's an old man on the porch reminiscing about what used to be. Things have changed in football. You either change with it or you get left behind. Unfortunately, that seems to be the way.
Let me tell you what happened when Florida State had a bunch of coaching changes and they tried to lean back on, remember what Bobby did for us. Bobby made us what we are. Bobby won us natties. Bobby did this. Bobby did that. Hey, you know what happened? Florida State sucked for a long time, like a long time. They got lucky to have a Jameis Winston win them a natty in 2013. And outside of that, they've been bad. And it took them a long time to get back to not bad. So if you are fine going through that whole thing, then cool. This conversation doesn't matter to you. But if it does matter to you, if you do want more success, if you do want more ACC titles, if you do want more natties, if you do want more Heismans, if you want your team to have a player on the cover of NCAA 26 when it drops a year from next month, then this conversation is for you. So Dabo said yesterday that in his opinion, most of the transfer portal guys aren't good enough to play at Clemson. And I want to say he's actually right. I actually agree with him. The majority of guys that go into the portal are not good enough to play at Clemson. He is correct. And I'm very glad that what he didn't say is none of the guys in the portal are good enough to play at Clemson. He is absolutely correct in saying most transfer portal players aren't good enough for Clemson. I respect that. And he's right. They're not. But let me tell you where you lose me on that. Where you lose me on that is when I go look at the transfer portal players, guys who are transferring into schools. Clemson. Lonzo, I'm going to put you in a spot where you get to maybe have the most fun in a single sentence that you've had in a long time. Is Clemson better than Ohio State right now?
Man, I want to laugh, but it will hurt so bad. So just consider me. You hear the sound of my laughter? I do. Yes, that's me. That's me. laughing.
Maniacal, I'd describe it as.
But if you want to look at it from the standpoint of national championships, right now they're both in the same boat. Ain't neither one won one in a while.
Going into 2024, who's more likely to get the next one, Ohio State or Clemson?
Ohio State.
Correct. Who's in a better spot right now, Clemson or Alabama?
Wow, I don't know.
Yeah, you do. It's Alabama.
There's no
The only reason you can say no is because Caleb DeBoer's in his first year, and that's fair. But as a team, talent on the field, who's in a better spot, Clemson or Alabama?
All right, again, not trying to be argumentative, but there was some departures when Nick Saban left. So this is more of a wait and see for me. More than likely, Alabama is in a better position.
I will accept more than likely. The answer is yes to me, but I'll accept more than likely. Who's in a better position right now, Clemson or Texas?
Texas.
Correct. Who's in a better position right now, Clemson or Georgia?
Georgia.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, there are some other teams that you can make an argument about. I'd say who's in a better position right now, Clemson or Florida State? I think that's probably a toss-up, but Florida State did just go 13-0. I'd ask who's in a better position, Clemson or Penn State? Penn State lost 2, literally Michigan and Ohio State. I'd ask who's in a better position right now, Clemson or Washington? Washington lost all their talent, but they did go to a title game. Florida, Michigan State, SC. The reason I bring all these things up is, yes, Dabo, most transfer portal players aren't good enough to play at Clemson. I agree with you. But all these schools that I just mentioned, a good chunk of which are better than you right now, they all have transfer portal players coming in. So that's not really a good rationale behind not doing something that all the championship caliber teams are doing. We'll finish up this discussion when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Well, Jacob, they're gonna have the opportunity to get challenged here.
Up to the minute of state traffic. Cordell and Cordell Gem Cam shows both the construction and the house. Cleaned up and traffic back to normal northbound 85 around 275 North Main. Now southbound 85 is working with the Felton Mills project. You've got 2 miles to the bathtub, moving at 25 miles an hour. And just now, northbound 85 pops up with a
Did you say bathtub?
Yes, there's a bathtub on the road.
Luckily, we were in my Nissan Road. It's power. DC turbo engines. We had time to see all the animals. Whoa! I got one of you!
Did that guy just insinuate that he went to a drive-through zoo and then was charged by an elephant?
I think so. He has quicks though, so he was all right. Because elephants are slow. Everyone knows that.
Elephants are not slow.
Sarcasm.
They're terrifying
Yeah, I know.
as a whole. I got shockingly, email during the break. Email. You can email me, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. My email address is always open, by the way. If you get something late at night, maybe knock down a couple of glasses of bourbon and have an epiphany that I was very right or very wrong about something, the email's always open. rob.brown@thefanupstate. It is the very first thing that I do when I get in the AM is to run through the email inbox and see what I got. So if you ever have a thought you want to drop, maybe it's too long for on air, maybe you don't want to come on the air, but it's too long for a text, rob.brown@thefanupstate.com. Email me anytime you want. Drunk, sober, I don't care. Have at it. That's why it's open 24/7. So I got an email from somebody who was very clear, and I'm not going to read it because they asked me not to, but I'm going to paraphrase and address it nonetheless. The emailer wrote in and said basically that I just don't get it. The emailer wrote in and said that Clemson has more pride in being Clemson than the pride that another national championship could bring in. And that if you win a championship, but you don't do it the Clemson way, that there is no point in winning a national championship at all. You're gonna give yourself carpal tunnel over there, bud. So I want to address that. Texter, no, emailer, you guy or lady, I don't know.
Too late. You gave it away.
Individual, person. If that is your stance, cool. Okay. Like, great. Here's what I'm not going to do. What I'm not going to do is come on this radio show every day and go, you guys are you're doing great, sweetie. You're so amazing. I love you. You're just the best. You just have an image that everybody wishes that they could reach to the top of the mountaintop and be like you. I'm not going to do that, okay? If you don't care about winning a natty, if that's not your objective, that's fine. But you and I can't communicate about this. We can't do it. We can't do it. I don't know what to... Listen, yes, I want to have pride in my program, of course. But to say that doing it my way or the highway is the only way, I think is a little silly, especially when the thing you're standing up against, like, isn't a big deal, right? It's not a big deal. It's one thing for someone to take a legitimate stand on principle and ride that to the bitter end. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. But it's like if you took a stance of, I'm not wearing blue and I'm taking it to the grave. It's like, that's a real dumb thing to take to the grave, bud. And that's kind of the spot that I'm in, is I feel like there's this mentality and you guys are willing to take the only certain people are good enough for us to the grave. And when you go from a record of 69-5 over 71 games, and then you turn it around and you go 30-10 in the last 3 seasons, what do you want me to chalk that up to? Where do you want me to hang that? If you look at the last 3 years and you don't see a failure, then this segment's not for you.
Hold on, Rob. But Clemson's been in the playoffs more than any other team.
Cool. They're 30-10 in the last 3 years.
Yeah, but Clemson's won 2 national championships, 3 if you count the one that Danny got him.
You're 30-10 in the
I
last
just think
years.
you're dwelling on the negative when you don't see all the positive that Clemson has done.
So I think there is absolutely nothing wrong with celebrating achievements of the past. There's nothing wrong. Hang the banners. Talk about it. Sing the songs of glory and victory as long as the day is. I'm good with all of that.
You
But
might be dwelling perpetually in 3rd to 4th place in the ACC, which is where you used to be. That you've been there more than you've been to championships, but that will make you dwell on the other part.
I think
more.
one of the problems here is that a lot of Clemson fans think that when you say, I expect you to be doing things to be better moving forward, that is the same as saying you should not be proud of what you've done in the past. That's not true. That's not true at all. You should absolutely celebrate your natties, your ACC titles, your string of trophies you put together in the conference. You should celebrate all these things. You should celebrate your victories over the Gamecocks. You should celebrate all the things that Dabo has accomplished during his time in charge of the program. But saying that you should point the ship in a better direction is not saying that you should burn everything that's happened in the past to the ground. It's not the same thing. And so when I get a head coach who says, we looked in the portal. We made a pass at some guys, but we weren't able to talk anybody into our squad, and we're not really concerned. And most of the portal guys are good enough to play for us anyway. Again, so that we're clear, you are correct. The overwhelming majority of guys in the portal are not good enough to play at Clemson. And that is something you should ride into the dirt.
Could you make an entire team from the portal and beat Clemson?
Honestly, probably not. Probably not. Could
you take an entire team from the portal and beat any
I think you could make a portal team and beat a Vanderbilt. I think you could take a portal team and beat a Boise State. Like a small town school, right? There were in the portal through this year. If you look at only 4-star athletes, if I'm looking at 4-star athletes, I'm still scrolling down. I have just scrolled through the first 100 players in the transfer portal. I have to drop down to player number 121 before I find my first 3-star player in the portal at number 3. You are telling me in a portal that contains 121 4- and 5-star athletes that there's not guys good enough to make your team better? That there's not guys that can, and I get it. The concept of loyalty, right? We want to be loyal to our guys that signed on out of high school to come play here. I want to be loyal to them. And that is okie dokie, just fine with me. I'm good with it. I respect and commend people who show loyalty. I am good with it. However, do you want to win championships, or do you want to have everybody talk about how loyal you are?
You have lived here all this time and you just don't get it.
I know that's what that email just
there
told
must
me.
be there's something wrong with you, Rob Brown. You might secretly be pulling for another team because that's the only way you cannot see the grandeur, the greatness, the pedestal that is Clemson.
Legitimately, you guys know that leaning into conflict's not my bag, right? It's not my bag. I don't like conflict. I don't like fads, and so because of that, I will say this. That's exactly the tone, the attitude that I got out of the email I just read during the break. That's exactly the tone and the attitude I got.
I recognize
Rob Brown,
the tone.
you're an idiot. You don't get it.
I have worked around that for nearly half my life now. And so I definitely recognize it.
I respect the desire to show loyalty. I respect it. And that's all well and good. But do you want to win or don't you want to win? And if your answer is, I would rather be known as a team with principles and loyalty, that's spectacular. Go on and enjoy. Have fun. Tailgates, I'm sure, are just riveting for you. But if you want to win and you want to get back to winning the ACC and you want to get back to making the playoffs and you want to get back to winning national championships, you're either going to do what Ohio State and Alabama and Texas and Georgia and Miami and Notre Dame and Florida State and Florida and Penn State and Washington and Michigan State and USC.
Wait. You can't name every team.
Okay. So what every other team is doing. And again, if you want to hang the banner next year in the stadium that says only school with 0 incoming transfer portal players, then hang the hell up out of that banner. All right? Have the band learned a new song just for the ceremony to hang the banner that says only Power 4 school not to have a transfer portal player in. Hang that banner. Hang that banner high right up next to your last 2 national championship banners and brag about it. Talk about it. Have a great time. But if you'd like to hang another national championship banner up next to your last national championship banner, if you'd like to give yourself a shot at it, what do you want me to say? You're going to have to do it, or you're not. Or you're not. So, to circle back around to the beginning of the last segment for this emailer and for all of you that are out there listening right now, let me say this. I am largely, I won't say definitively, I am largely done talking about Dabo and the transfer portal. I am largely done talking about Clemson in the transfer portal. I am largely done talking about Clemson and NIL. Although, to be clear, they do have a collective. They are working NIL. Like, that's not a criticism that's valid anymore. They do have in fact, I will tell you, as somebody who's been in that facility many times, not only do they have an NIL collective, they have built inside of their football program an entire NIL wing that has labs and podcasting equipment and recording devices and a classroom, and they are teaching these kids about NIL. They actually are going way off the mark to help with the NIL stuff. But
they also have that portal room where they have to clean it daily because there's a lot of dust in there.
The portal room.
No one really goes in there ever.
I am done talking about Dabo in the portal for now. And the reason I am done talking about Dabo in the portal is because as far as I am concerned, after going 30-10 in the last 3 seasons, following a year where you had following a run where you had twice the wins and half the losses, this is the year that Dabo's philosophy is going to work, or Dabo's philosophy is not. You'll remember last week we did an entire show where I asked the Clemson fans, hey, yo, what's your definition of success? I want your definition of success now so that when next year rolls around, we can have a list of names. Tim said it was X, and Jamie said it was Y, and Bob said it was Z. And we can go down the list and go, according to X percentage of Clemson fans, they succeeded. According to Y percentage of Clemson fans, they failed. And I think we are deep enough into NIL. We are deep enough into the portal era. We have seen the Georgias and the Bamas and the Texases all jumping into the portal, that we can say at the end of this year that if this team fails this year, and again, success and failure, absolutely subjective. Some of you, including this emailer, are going to say, if this team goes 2-10, we still succeeded because we have character and we did it our way. Okay, cool. Hang your banners. That's great. If that's success to you, we're not the show for you. This ain't the station for you. But if your level of success is 10-2, 11-1, ACC title, make the first round, get a first round bye, whatever the case might be. If that is your definition of success or failure, and Clemson fails to reach it, I genuinely think that this is the first year, or at least I'm willing to chalk it up to being the first year, that I can look and say, the results of this year are a direct result of the Dabo Swinney philosophy. Hey, if Clemson goes 12-0 and they win the ACC and they're in the playoffs, then absolutely Dabo Swinney can call this show next year and say,
you just sit at home in your grandma's basement with the drawers on, typing on your damn keyboard. Shut the hell up.
And I'll accept it. I'll go, you're right. Your way worked. Your way worked. Congratulations. What a run. Applause all around. Good job. But if it doesn't work, if it fails, then I think at this point we can say, if you're Graham Neff, it is time to say, Coach, We're either catching up or we got to have a very serious conversation about this. Because when I'm watching Michigan bring 9 guys out of the portal and go to a natty last year, Washington bring 9 guys out of the portal and go to the natty last year, Alabama bringing 8 guys out of the portal and go into the playoffs last year. I'm not asking you to go get 50 guys like Dion. I'm asking you to look at the fact that there are 121 4-star or better athletes in the portal and figure out how some of them can help your football team and how to get them there. Because you're not. And if it fails this year, then the Dabo Swinney philosophy of 2024 has failed. And Clemson fans, it'll be time for you to decide what to do next. Austin and Duncan says, as a Gamecock fan, I would absolutely sign up for 30-10. Yeah, I believe it. But Shane's in the portal, isn't he? Shane's working to get better and using that asset to do it. There's the difference. Transfer port recruited and the 5-star of reading sports flashes. It's Lonzo. Got it. Nailed it. Still got it.
The arraignment of Master Champion Scotty Scheffler has been delayed until June 3rd, according to Scheffler's attorney. Scheffler was, I don't know how many times I'm going to say that. He's put it in there a bunch of times. Arrested Friday morning before the second round of the PGA Championship. The Louisville Metro Police Department said after the event that the body cam of arresting officer Detective Brian Gillis was not activated during the arrest. The Braves stayed 10 games over 500 with a split doubleheader against the Padres yesterday in the opening matchup. Atlanta led by 5 before allowing the Padres to score 4 in the 8th to take the lead. Joe Jimenez tagged with the loss in a relief effort. The Braves took game 2 with a 3-0 scoreline after a dominant effort from Chris Sale. Tune in this afternoon from 3 to 7 for a brand new local show, Wire to Wire. Cole Bryson and Diesel get you up to date on the latest local and national sports news. Great guests, great debate, and a lot of fun. That's all Wire to Wire. Come on, come on.
Correct, Stephen. They are the current Palmetto Bowl champions. And again,
And what's that mean on a national scale?
Not a damn thing.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's bragging rights within the state, but really, is it? I mean, okay. You started to do the Hogan flex. I saw that out of the corner of my eye. You were getting ready to do it. You're getting ready to flash the pythons.
I don't have pythons to flex. I used to be an athlete.
I used to be someone. To be a contender.
Used to.
See, I don't. You're a reigning defending champ right now, so I don't know what you're talking about. Until we are dethroned.
We are reigning defending champ.
Yeah, it's a week. Yeah, but you, as a part of we, are one. So I mean,
that is true.
Huh? My head's messed up, so I don't get it. But I'm
the Palmetto Bowl thing.
Oh, okay. All right. Right, I don't get to brag. You know why? Because I move forward. I move on to the now, to the future, to what's going to happen, not what did happen.
Here we go. The third hour of the Rob Brown Radio Show starts now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is the Fan Upstate. Robin the Great with Lonzo with you. Here on a lovely Upstate Tuesday AM, working our way towards the NBA and NHL Stanley Cup Conference Finals. Tickets to the championship series of both leagues on the line as Boston and Indiana get going tonight. I'll give you some thoughts on that game coming up here in just a little while. We're spending some time talking college football on the radio broadcast today, and I read through that email. I read a couple of texts that we got this AM on the show, specifically in that last segment. And I think I've narrowed it down. I was trying to think, in radio, we are taught to, really in journalism as a whole, even when you are editorializing, as the great one and I do on a daily basis, you are taught to be succinct. There is a...
Suck what?
Succinct.
I was quoting a movie.
What movies? I don't know what movie you're quoting.
Really?
That's bad.
It's Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Ah.
Maybe I should have went with the Dom DeLuise because he's the one who says it.
Yes, that would have clicked in more.
He's having a conversation with the sheriff of Rottingham, who says, "Allow me to be succinct."
Mole. Listen
to how he's laughing.
It's still that movie holds up. That movie way holds up. So, in my endeavor to be succinct, it is a very common expression in radio that you have 8 seconds to make a point and grab their attention. You got 8 seconds. Make your point in 8 seconds, and then have the conversation.
I've never heard that before.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm glad I'm here to help.
Thank you. That sounds like a brand new concept to me.
I'm really just here to be your mentor, Lonzo.
Wow.
Like, I feel like we can take you places.
Yes. Okay. Like the lunch? I don't know.
You have 8 seconds to make your point, grab their attention, and then hang on with a great argument behind it. So I tried to figure out during the break, how can I sum up what I'm trying to say regarding Clemson, regarding Clemson's football program, regarding Dabo Swinney, regarding the transfer portal, regarding yada, 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 in 8 seconds. And I think I'm going to do it this way. Are you good, Clemson fans, with coasting on the achievements of the past, or do you want to stay on top? I think that's 8 seconds. Because it does feel, when I get an email like the one that I paraphrased to you in that last segment, when I read stuff like that, when I get emails like that, it does come off the page for me as, you know what, we're good with what we got. You know, we're good with what we got. We're happy. There was a period of, and I've actually had this, maybe not this direct said to me, but like close to it. Rob, there was a point in my life where as a Clemson fan, I never thought we'd win a damn thing. So whatever we end up with, I'm happy. In fact, leading up to make it about me, leading up to the 2009 Super Bowl, where the New Orleans Saints finally brought me a Lombardi trophy, I said for my whole life going into that championship, which was 2 decades ago, you know, we have been complete and utter for my entire life. And if we just win one, if I just get to feel that feeling one time, if I can just know what that feels like one time, watching the Patriots do it so many times, watching Manning do it, watching my friends who are bandwagon fans do it. Like if I could just feel that feeling one time, I think I'd die a happy football fan. Whether it's that night or 100 years later, just to experience that one time, I think I'd be happy. And I got to, no, it was not 20 years ago. It was 2009, but it feels like it was decades ago. I thought to myself, if I can experience that one time, I'll die a happy football fan. And then we won it. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you that night is going to forever be like a top 3 Rob Brown night of all time. All time. My old man popped a bottle of champagne that he had been saving for something special for years. My old man was not much longer for this world, as a matter of fact. And I got to share that with him. My entire family in the state of Florida came to our house. And we celebrated until the cops got called. It was great. And then when the cops got called and they show up, they're like, listen, we totally get it. We understand. Just like keep it inside, right? We're out on the dock over the bayou shooting fireworks into the air, right?
How come it looked like you were holding a rifle when you said that?
Big old Roman candles.
Oh, okay.
We're shooting fireworks. If we were in Louisiana, we would have been popping shotgun shells off.
The majority of your family, are they like equal DBs with you?
Oh, yeah.
Or loud?
It's a loud family.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm reserved at my family reunion.
I come from a really loud family too.
Yep.
That's hard to believe, but I do.
It was one of the greatest things that's ever happened. That night is going to rank top 10 nights for top 5, top 3. As of right now, it'd be hard to tell you it's not the best night of my life. I'd be lying to you to tell it's not at least in the competition. And I had said up until that point, if I just get to experience it one time.
That'll be great, man.
Just one time. And I did. And for a couple of days after that, great one, for a couple of days after that, I actually believed the whole, I can die a happy fan now, right? Like no matter what happens, the rest of the ride around the sun for me, I can die a happy Saints fan. I got to see one. Most of my relatives died before the Saints won a Super Bowl. They never got to feel that feeling. I did. I was very grateful for that. And then something happened, my dudes. Then something happened. The next year started. And Rob Brown and the rest of the Who Dat Nation, we had a little taste. We had a little taste for success. We had a little taste for what it felt like to be on top of the mountaintop. And the next year, In the 2010 year, when the season kicked off, despite the fact that we were the reigning, defending, undisputed world champions of the world, I didn't want anything more than to do it again. And I will be straight up with you. My perspective as a Saints fan watching games on Sunday, it changed after we won that Super Bowl. It evolved after we won that championship. It became less about Sundays are real fun days for me and all of my family to get together and have some food and share a joke or two and enjoy a football game. And it turned into, what the hell are you doing, Sean? Run the screen. Get the end around. It turned into, I want to win. I want to win every game. I want to win in the playoffs. I want another Lombardi. It will never be enough. There will never be enough championships for me. And despite the fact that I have kind of reverted back to, yeah, you got your one, you should probably be happy because you're going to suck for a very long time. And that's probably very true. It changed the way I looked at games because I wanted my team, and still do to this day, to be the best. To be the best. I wanted to be the best. And my question is, do y'all have that same attitude about your college football program or not? Do you have the same attitude about the Clemson Tiger football program? Because it feels to me like there are a lot of you on the I give a damn graph. There's a lot of you that are way over to the right of, yeah, Rob, we want to be good again. We not good. You are good. Let's be clear. Let me not make it bad. You are a good football program. A football program that absolutely is capable of, has the resources to, has the ability to win more championships. You are absolutely in that group as far as I'm concerned. You have not departed back into the ranks of mediocrity that the overwhelming majority of college football teams occupy. You're not Mizzou. You're not Kentucky. Hell, respectfully, you're not South Carolina. You're in that upper echelon. And so my question is, if I was to graph out on the I give a damn scale where most Clemson fans are you way over on the right-hand side of I don't want to be good, I want to be great. I don't want to be a contender.
That'll be great, man.
I want to be a winner. Where are you on that scale? Or are more Clemson fans over on the left-hand side of the scale of, I'm pretty happy with what we've achieved. I am happy to hang the banners we've hung, and if we get another one, super-de-duper, and if we don't, that's okay. That's okay. Where are you on that scale? Because I will tell you that as a Saints fan, I live on the far right side of that scale. I occupy the far right side of that scale. As far as I am concerned, I want the Lombardi every year. I recognize that's not a reality, but I want the Lombardi enough that I am willing to.
Notice I'm staying out of this conversation.
Yeah, nobody cares. I'm disrespecting the Chiefs over here. I live on the right side of the graph enough that, and probably the only place that I will do this, I will openly call for another man to lose his job, Dennis Allen. I want him fired. I want him gone. I can't think of another aspect of my life where I've ever openly and publicly called for another man's job. I'm sure it's happened. I just can't think of what it is.
Never Urban?
Well, I'm talking about football as a whole here.
Okay. All right.
Yes. Well, you know what? Urban outside of football, too. He should not be on TV. We should stop celebrating Urban Meyer as a standard bearer of college football. We can do better. But I live over on the right side of that give a damn graph. I live way over there on the edge of, yeah, we got one. I don't want to coast on we got one for the rest of my life. I want another one. I always want there to be a recent championship in my football team's history. And there's just not one. Now, sometimes you just got to recognize that you can't be the best team every year. Not even the Chiefs can't be the best team every year. And sometimes you got to recognize that the best team doesn't always win the championship. Isn't that right, New York Giants? The best team doesn't always win the championship. Sometimes weird stuff happens. This is my whole thing with the Knicks right now. Like Knicks fans, like there's a host. I'm actually going to play some audio from him later. A guy by the name of Evan Roberts, who works on a station up in New York City. And he had this big rant on the air yesterday where he's like, I'm so tired of these Knicks fans tweeting out, great job and thanks for the memories and congratulations. We lost. This stinks. And I'm like, dude, you played with a backup team, man. Like, injuries happen. I think Knicks fans should be very grateful for the run that they just went on. But there's a difference between being grateful because you look at your team and you went, this team did everything that they were capable of doing to get there. My coach did everything he was capable of doing. My players did everything they were capable of doing. We did everything. When I was a kid and I was growing up, the old man hit me with a life lesson one time. Many times. I would go do a thing and I would finish the thing. And I can tell you one specific example that I remember. There was a neighbor around the corner from me. His name was Mr. Dean. His name, hilariously, was James Dean. Mr. Dean lived around the corner from me. And when I was in middle school, Mr. Dean gave me the opportunity to cut his grass and edge and weed whack and blow it all off at the end. And he paid me pretty good money to do it. You know, paid me like $10 to do a couple of hours worth of yard work. In retrospect, yeah, come on, Mr. Dean. But like as a kid, $10 for a couple of hours of work, pretty good cash, yeah?
I'm surprised you haven't factored in inflation and everything else to realize that was actually pretty good money if you put it in today's terms.
It'd be like $25 today. Listen, he had a big ass yard. Remember, this was my 1%er neighborhood, Lonzo. This was not your standard front and backyard.
And you were
a kid, like 8, 9.
Push
oh
mower?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Not the kind where you just push the handle and it guides itself. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, to push the thing. You had a
trimmer. Had a motor on it though, right?
Had a motor on it.
Okay. All right.
Had a edger and a trimmer and a weed whacker that you had to plug the extension cord in, but he had a real short cord, so I had to plug it into every outlet as I worked around the house. Dude, it was way more than like $15.
Hey, there's proof that it's a 1%er neighborhood, multiple outlets outside.
No. 1%er is you got a gas-powered weed whacker. That's when you made it, son. Gas-powered weed whacker is on my wedding registry. That's not a joke.
No, what 1%er, you hire someone to do it. But
fair.
I guess that's what he did.
That's what he did.
Yeah, so.
And smart enough to save his money by not paying a professional, pay the idiot kid down the street. Anyway, the point is this. There was one time where I cut the grass, and then Mr. Dean told me the next day, he said, hey man, I'm not gonna have you come do my yard anymore. And I was like, uh-oh, what'd I do? And then I went home and had a conversation with the old man, and the old man looked at me and he said, let me ask you a question. When you left there that day, did you do the best you could? Did you do the best job you're capable of doing? Did you do a job that you would be happy to put your name on and say, this is my work? And I had to honestly look at my father and say, no, I did not. I half-assed it. I cut the grass. I didn't really trim the backyard. I didn't weed whack up under the bushes, which I had been asked to do multiple times. I did not do the best job that I could do. And he goes, do you understand why he's not having you back? And I said, yeah. I said, I absolutely. So I went down the street and I apologized to Mr. Dean for doing a half-assed job. And he said, I appreciate the apology and come back. Turns out Mr. Dean called my dad to tell him, like, hey, this is an opportunity. This is what we call a teachable moment. And I learned. You do the best you can. You put your name on it. And sometimes the best you can do ain't going to be good enough. But at least you can say, I did the absolute best I'm capable of. My question is for you Clemson fans. Do you right now, today, this second, honestly, truly feel like you can look me in the face right now and say that you're doing the best that you can do to get back to the top of Mount Champions? Can you tell me that you thoroughly, sincerely believe that Dabo and the Clemson Tiger Athletic Department is doing everything they can, the best possible job to win Clemson a championship? And do you care if they do? Something to kick around. All right, we'll get away from this and get into some other stuff as the show progresses. Rob Lonzo and you on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
QC.
Quick live for you guys coming right back. You'll stay right there for me, please, and thank you.
Worst part about this, other than the pain, is I got to put promos together and I have a headache. The promos are going to suck.
Every business faces challenges, but complicated, expensive, and uncertain shipping shouldn't be one of them. With USPS Ground Advantage from the United States Postal Service, you can avoid all the noise. No more unexpected surcharges, hidden fees, or complex rate structures. It's just easy.
I'm curious if I put some other promos in the multi-cut that has our promos, their promos in it.
Affordable, reliable. You know your customers. Ralph likes his coffee black on Fridays, but Mondays he takes a little cream. Jennifer comes in every 3 years when her lease is up to get the newer and better model. And for some reason, pepperoni pizza sells like crazy on Friday nights. Who knew? At Odyssey, we have the expertise to get your media plan done right. With ads like you're hearing right now, to targeted social media campaigns, search engine optimization, and location-based advertising. Advertise with Odyssey and help us grow your business. Visit ads.odyssey.com. Today, Sunny with the lower 50.
Did you see the thing I sent you on Twitter like a couple hours ago?
Yeah. Is that a real picture? I meant to ask.
He's the one who posted it. Oh, no. Oh, you're talking about the other thing. Yeah. Yeah. Because that's everywhere. But I was talking about the latest one that I sent you. The Scott Hansen one.
Yes. I would like to bring back, I used to do a segment we did. It's not a segment, it's a benchmark called Countdown to Football. And it was just a sounder that we played, and then we said 98 days till college football kicks off or whatever. For whatever reason, it was obnoxiously popular.
Get up, everybody.
Texture says, fan, I remember when Clemson beat Alabama in 2016. When Bama arrived back home, there were almost zero fans welcoming them back. I don't want to be one of those spoiled fans. For the record, I get that. I understand that. There's a reason that Alabama, for many years, maybe still to this day, is so passionately disliked by the rest of the college football fan base. It is not simply because they dominated everybody for so long under Nick Saban. It was because their fans were obnoxious. And yes, I agree, spoiled. I don't think it's an either-or scenario, right? Like, I don't think it's an either-or scenario. I don't think it's a situation where you either are spoiled and driven to succeed, or you are bad, but you're grateful. I think you can be both grateful and successful. I think there have been plenty of athletes who have been right down the tunnel. So I don't know, man. Like, I don't think it's either or. So like I said, my question is, what matters to you? Is it winning championships? Or is it whatever you want to call it? Integrity, character, loyalty, ethics. I call it whatever you want to call it. If the answer is the latter, then fine. We'll stop talking about ways that Clemson football can improve, right? If they take a loss this year, let's say they get beat 2 years in a row by Florida State. If they take a loss this year, then we come in here on Monday and we go, you know what? Who cares, right? Who cares? Who cares that we lost? It doesn't matter, because we got loyalty. We got integrity. We got character. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. And we feel good about ourselves. We feel warm and fuzzy on the inside. And that's what this is all about. It's all about the warm. It's all about the fuzzy. And we feel warm and fuzzy. So, you know, if you get beat by Georgia, we just go, you know what? I think it's commendable that we went in there and we tried our best. And then if you lose against Appalachian State, You go, you know what? That's a good young football team, and we went out there and we gave it our all. And that's really all you can ask for. And if you lose at home to NC State, you turn around off that bye week and you go, hey, guys, nobody on the team last year lost their job to a transfer portal player this year. So that's what we should really be celebrating. All the guys that signed up to play football here are still playing football here. And that's what's important, right? That's what's
except for the guys on the bench and those guys. They're not playing football, but they're practicing.
Hey, we're just as long as they don't lose their job, whatever that job is to a transfer portal guy, we hang the banner. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not black or white. It's not one or the other. It's not A or B. You can be grateful for what's been accomplished. You can celebrate what's been accomplished on one hand, while also saying, I'd kind of like us to do that moving forward too.
At the same time, don't you get Dabo's point of view or what it could be? Everyone's telling him how to do things. Well, everyone else is doing it. You got to do it this way. You have to. There's no way you can succeed otherwise. Wouldn't you want to rail against that and prove that you can? I don't know if you can or not, but I get it. When people are telling you, you can't, you know this mentality.
Sure.
When people tell you can't, you want to say, okay, I'm going to prove every single one of you wrong.
And here's the thing. I have done that. I have done that in radio. You've done that in radio. Just about everybody in radio has done that in radio. And there is nothing wrong with that mentality. Unless you don't do it. Right? There have been times in this and other aspects of my life where I've been told, Rob, that's not the right way to do the thing. You're not going to be able to do the thing if you do the thing that way. And then I go, I'll show you, you son of a biscuit. Watch me. And then I try and the way that I do it doesn't work and I fail miserably and I flame out. And then I have to go back later and go, you were right. I was wrong. That's on me. My bad. I'll try harder next time. Here's the thing. I don't have and never have had millions and millions of dollars riding on me proving myself right or wrong.
I don't think that matters. I don't think salary matters. When you bet on yourself.
I'm not talking about Dabo's salary. I'm talking about the tens of thousands of people who take Saturdays out of their life for 3.5 months because they want to enjoy and they want to win.
You mean the same ones who are defending him today?
Sure.
On text and email?
Sure.
He's not, he hasn't lost them.
And again,
until he does, he's good.
This is why I have said, this is why there have been, and I promise you I'm done with it after this segment, okay? Don't text me anymore about this. I don't want to talk about it. This is why I've said, I want Clemson fans preseason, and if you want to wait until after fall camp, I'm good with that.
You're bringing this up and you want them to be quiet, they're going to keep coming at you till you admit that you're wrong.
Well, we're going to be locked in an eternal struggle. I want Clemson fans preseason. If you want to do it now, if you want to wait until after fall camp and see what you got, whatever, I would like you preseason to give me your definition of success for this season. Because as I have said a couple of times, and I'm sure we'll say a few more before we go toe meets leather in 97 some odd days. I want you to define what success is, because we are deep enough into the NIL era. We are deep enough into the transfer portal era that it's a new day in college football. Yes, it is no longer a thing you can lean on for failure, right? I think you got a couple of years where you could fail and you could go, well, guys, it's a new era in college football and we're all learning. We're all trying to figure out what this new era is like, how it operates, how we have to operate, what the new trends and patterns are, how players are going to respond to it, how we're going to respond to players, how players are going to respond to our response to players. We got to figure all that out. We're 3 years deep now, dudes. That's done. That's gone. You know now. All those questions have been answered. They've all been answered. And so now it's your turn to say either A, I care more about my feelings and the brand, the integrity, and yada, 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 than I care about a natty. Or here is my definition of failure, and if Dabo goes below that threshold, then we have to have a talk. Because this is the year where there's no more excuses. His mentality is either proven to work or it will be proven to not work, and then you get to decide what, if anything, you do about it. Let's take a break. We'll come back and get away from this and get into all the other things that we have not gotten into yet on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
New life.
Quick live for you guys. Be right back. Don't go nowhere. right, y'all. We back. Yeah, I think that's been my take, Steven. Like, I'm gonna, whatever happens this year, I think this is the year that feet have to be held to fires. The Fawns.
People can keep. This is the reason why Clemson. This is the reason, but it really comes down to the quarterback. It does. Got spoiled and cannot find someone as good or even a little bit below what you had.
Well, that's I mean, that's still part of him, right? His thing. I mean, if any other coach is missing on recruits time after time after time, eventually you got to be held responsible for that. The Rob Brown Show continues. It is the Fan Upstate. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Rob and Lonzo with you. I have teased this a little bit, but at some point I got to pay it off. So now's a good time as any. We got the NFL schedule release last week, pardon me. We did get one last year, but for the purposes of this conversation.
And the year before that, and we'll get one next year too.
This is, fingers crossed, right? Fingers crossed. We got the NFL schedule release last week, and there are 272 regular season National Football League games. I brought up last week, we broke down the Carolina Panthers schedule, the Atlanta Falcons schedule. We took a look at the top 10 games of the season. And so I wanted to take a look at the rest of the league. So I started going up and down the different team schedules last night and putting together a few of my favorite over-under win totals. Teams I think can get to a certain mark based on the schedule that was laid out ahead of them. And I have to do something here that I don't want to do. I actually think I may have to come back around to something that Lonzo and I had a headbutting contest over last week.
You know I'm easy prey today. I see what you're doing.
No. Quite the opposite. I'm actually going to say that after reevaluating, I think you may have been right and I may have been wrong about something. And that something is the New York Jets. Last week, you accused me of hating on the Jets because I am not an Aaron Rodgers fan. Just to rehash where I stood on that, I actually am a fan of Aaron Rodgers, the football player. I just think Aaron Rodgers is kind of a doofus away from a football field. That's my own personal, non-football related opinion. So I was like, all right, let me dive back in. Let me look at this schedule that the New York Football Jets have ahead of them. And I got curious because the Jets have in the first, up through week 9, they have 6 primetime games. They catch another primetime game in week 11. Now, the end of the year, as of right now, they don't have any primetime games. As Lonzo was pointed out a couple of times, they may or may not get one flexed in there somewhere, depending on if they are threatening the AFC East or not. But I said coming into the year, I don't expect them to be contenders in the division. And just so we're clear, I still don't. However, the Jets over-under win total coming into this year is 9.5 wins. And I think I got to play the over. Because I went and I got curious about this. And I'm like, all right, I talked about the fact that I'm not a believer in the Jets offense. I'm not a believer that Aaron Rodgers is going to have enough around him that he's going to be able to elevate this team to double-digit wins this year. But the more I think about it, the more I think maybe the AFC East is going to be wide open for everybody that's not the New England Patriots. Because the Buffalo Bills have, I think we all agree, taken a step back. Although, again, we all love some Keon Coleman. Keon's my guy. I'm interested in what he's going to do. By the way, you didn't see the story. There was a kid who sent Keon Coleman a letter that had some friendship bracelets, and Keon wore them in the rookie debut of his uniform in the pictures. He had him on. Didn't tell the kid he was doing it. Just showed up in the pictures, right? Cool guy. I like Keon Coleman a lot. But I don't think anybody is going to lean on him to replace Stephon Diggs, at least not in year one. So I think Buffalo takes a step back because I don't think they replaced what they lost in Diggs. And on top of that, I trust McDermott about as far as I can throw him, and I haven't worked out in a very long time. So probably not that far. Probably not that far. Then I think about the Miami Dolphins. I'm not writing off Miami. I think Miami is going to be right back in the thick of it this year. Does that mean Miami's going to be a playoff team again? I'm not quite ready to say that for certain, but I think they are going to be in the thick of it. I think people are looking at what happened to them in Kansas City last year in the playoffs and thinking, okay, they're cooked, they're done, they're toast, they're roast, they're out. I don't think that is the case. I cannot tell you how ridiculous it is, especially when you play the overwhelming majority of your games in Miami, Florida, to go play in weather that makes your toes fall off and think you're going to be the same team that you are. In fact, if anything, I think it would inspire Miami to figure out how in the hell do we get the 1 seed this year? How in the hell do we make sure we do not have to go to Kansas City this year? But then there's the Jets. You had a bit of a breakout year last year from Breece Hall, who's going to be running back number 1. And I think on 223 carries and 6 yards shy of 1,000. The only question I have is, can he score some touchdowns this year? Well, with Aaron Rodgers back there, there's a possibility. I look at the wide receiver core the Jets have put together. I'm looking at Garrett Wilson, who's been good. Mike Williams makes his way over. Mike Williams, a guy 29 years of age, former Clemson guy, by the way, with plenty of experience to become a vet leader in the locker room. I look at Malachi Corley, probably the weak link on this thing as a rookie out of Western Kentucky, but everything says he's a speed guy, which is kind of the one thing that they were missing. And then I thought about what I didn't think about last time, which is the Jets might actually have one of the better defenses in the AFC East. They might have the best defense in the AFC East. They got Javon Kinlaw and Quinnen Williams in the middle, Hassan Reddick on the right side, Jermaine Johnson on the left. They added C.J. Mosley at the middle linebacker spot alongside Quincy Williams on the outside on the strong side. Sauce Gardner, Tony Adams, DJ Reed as 3 of your 4 defensive backs. They added a couple of rooks back there as well to give them a little depth. The Jets are going to have, I will say, arguably one of the better front sevens in the National Football League. Sauce Gardner back there is going to be one of the best DBs in the league. I don't know if he's got the help around him. I think you can probably throw around Sauce this year. We'll find out. But I might have to apologize because I was putting my list of favorite NFL over-under win totals together last night. Great one. And the more I looked at it, the more I got to go with the Jets to get to 10 wins this year behind Aaron Rodgers.
Here's the thing. Last year, they were touted to be pretty good. Then Aaron Rodgers went down, and they've gotten better.
And Zach Wilson's not quarterbacking.
Well, there's that. That makes you better, more than likely.
They get Aaron back. I think that might be okay. Give you another one that I very much like. I am currently very much sitting on the Atlanta Falcons over 9.5 wins as well. I hate it so much. I really do. The Falcons go Michael Penix, and for whatever reason, it's like everybody jumped off the bus. It's like everybody jumped off the bus. They drafted a quarterback that America didn't want them to draft, as if that matters. And then somehow everybody, I guess, got to thinking, oh, well, if they're insane enough to draft that guy in that spot, I can't trust their in-season decision-making. I'm going to tell you right now.
That's exactly it, though. I mean, you're thinking, oh, Kirk Cousins is going to be there. You're going to be pretty good. We were even talking about, I mean, Atlanta's the team to beat in the South. And then suddenly they make that decision, and a lot of people are looking at it and going, wow, if they did that, what else are they doing? That's wait, hold on. That's still Atlanta. For some reason, we thought when Kirk Cousins was coming in that they're not Atlanta anymore, but it turns out they're still Atlanta.
I mean, narratives get built about teams, and Atlanta certainly has that narrative. There's no doubt. They just are Atlanta. But, man, the fact that their win total is set at 9.5 in an NFC South that contains 2 freebies against the Panthers, that contains what should be at the very worst a 1-1 split against the Saints and the Bucks. There's 4 wins right there, just in division, 4 wins. Now you got to strap me together 6 more out of the rest of the other 13 of them. Yeah, I think I'm good. I think I'm good at that point. I think I can make a run here. You've upgraded from last year. You've got a quarterback who I think can make Drake London and Kyle Pitts very, very solid. Kirk Cousins was, again, with a very good wide receiver core in Minnesota, averaging up north of 270 passing yards for 3 years in a row before he left Minnesota. And the flip side of that is, what about the Falcons defense? It's like the one thing nobody's been talking about. New head coach Raheem Morris is a defensive guy. You are giving me an Atlanta Falcons team to get to 10 wins in a trash conference of which they are the best team with one of the, I think they had, well, we looked at it the other day, right? Well, what were they, like the second or third easiest schedule in the NFL? The whole NFC South has 4 of the 5 easiest schedules based solely on opponents' win percentage. That does not take into consideration runs of games where you got like 4 playoff games in a row or anything like that.
As I pointed out then, yeah, a lot of it has to do with them playing each other.
Sure thing it does.
Yeah, that will bring your percentage to what it is.
Sure thing it does. But even with that being said, it's still the advantage you. Playing one of the easiest, I think 2. I think they had the second easiest. Playing one of the easiest, for sure, 5 schedules in the NFL in that conference. Like, I think 10 wins is not just easy. I almost got to feel like it's mandatory for Atlanta this year, to tell you the truth. I think less than 10 wins, I can go ahead and chalk that up as a failure for next year. All right, when we come back in the next hour, we got some comments from Dave Canellis and Dan Morgan. We're going to listen to Canellis talked about Bryce Young. Morgan talked about Canellis. I'll play that for you, and we will break those things down when we come back. But across from me, with paper, not in hand, it's in front of him because he can do this no-handed. It's that easy for him. Is the Dave Canellis of reading sports flashes, Lonzo?
Which means you don't know what you're going to get until the season actually starts. The Stanley Cup Conference Finals are set after a 3-2 Edmonton win over Vancouver last night. The Oilers held a 3-0 lead into the third period until Connor Garland and Flip Hronek got 2 back, but the Canucks were unable to find the equalizer. Edmonton will take on Dallas in the Western Conference Finals starting Thursday. On the other side of the bracket, the Florida Panthers and New York Rangers begin the Eastern Conference Finals tomorrow night. In the NBA, the playoffs continue tonight at 8 with the Eastern Conference Finals between Indiana and Boston. Boston opens as a double-digit favorite in the game and a minus 900 favorite to win the series outright. The Western Conference Finals begin tomorrow night at 8:30 with the Timberwolves favored over the Mavericks by 5. Tune in this afternoon from 3 to 7 for our brand new local show, Wire to Wire. Cole Bryson and Diesel get you up to date on the latest local and national sports news. Great guests, great debate, a lot of fun. All Wire to Wire. Trying to figure out what Tuesday morning patience is. Lovely. Come on.
So what if I need a new one? We have the right Duralast battery for you, only at AutoZone. And what about my old battery? We can recycle it right here at America's #1 battery destination. Restrictions apply. Family Talk with Straight Talk.
It's time to get with the top line. You get a reliable 5G network and unlimited data, and you get to choose who joins your family plan starting as low as $25 a line. Doesn't have to be family. It can be family or a CP line.
Get more lines and more savings. Switch to Straight Talk for family plan starting as low as $25 a line per month with 4 lines. Price at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. Remember, family requests visit StraightTalk.com. Family plan discount. 4 lines, all on the silver limited plan. Taxes and fees apply.
Jim Roman like Shundo.
Get joined by a guard, the Orlando Magic. He's in his 3rd season. He was selected with the 5th overall pick in 2021 by the Magic out of Gonzaga, where he was All-American. This season, averaging a career high 12 points and 3 rebounds per game. We are joined right now by Jalen Suggs. The Magic are one of the most improved teams in the NBA. They're one of the hottest teams in the NBA. You're a big reason for that. Big players take and hit and make big shots. Can you explain what those moments feel like? For instance, can you put yourself into a zone or a flow state? Can you train yourself to be more calm, or do you just let it fly?
I think for me, just trying to be present. And for me, winning comes off doing whatever I need to do to win. Whether it's getting a stop, whether it's, a time like last night where guys find me, I got the hot hand and knocking down shots. Whatever needs to be done to get a win. And I feel like once it gets tight in those last couple minutes, my ability and my thought process also there as well. So again, just trying to find ways to be there for my teammates.
Jim Roman like Shundo. Unique and unlike any other sports talk show. It's BetMGM tonight, Monday through Friday from 7 to 11, only on the Fan. BetMGM tonight is the red zone for casual and hard hardcore sports fans. Live sports betting updates for all of the night's games as they happen. The latest scores, sides, totals, props, parlays, futures, and much more with real-time, relevant sports wagertainment. Tonight at 7. BetMGM tonight, exclusively on the Fan Upstate and on the Odyssey app. Your morning short of sports is the Rob Brown Show.
You went a little early, by the way. That's why this break seems a little bit longer.
He is a detail-oriented man. He is a very intense man, especially when it comes to the game of hockey. Very rarely have I seen somebody take the game more seriously than he does. And his success on the ice shows it. His dedication to getting players out in the community off the ice to showcase even further there. He's a guy that gets it from the ultimate leader standpoint. When you look at the course of his hockey career, when he played in the ECHL, when he played...
And Joe, quit wanting people to get hurt, man. Stop it. Just a suggestion: embrace kindness and try to be nice. Maybe crocheting, I think. Maybe needlepoint. I mean, there's the coloring books. I mean, those are calming.
Here we go. Final hour of the Rob Brown Show back on your radio. It is the Fan Upstate. Welcome in one and all. Rob the Great One, Lonzo with you here on an Upstate Tuesday AM. We got playoff basketball tonight. The Indiana Pacers and the Boston Celtics set to tip it up at 8 p.m. That's the only game of the evening outside of Major League Baseball. And yes, I am actually pretty excited about it.
I'm worried Christian McCaffrey's dad will be disappointed in me right now because I can't stop squinting.
Wasting energy.
I know.
Wasting energy. Good news is, we're sweatpants to work. So no heavy legs.
Yeah, that's true.
No heavy legs.
That's true. My mobility is good because of that. I am looking forward to seeing if the Celtics can be upset.
So let's talk.
What is the percentage of people who actually believe that the Celtics can lose?
You know, it's really funny. I can answer that question, at least in terms of the gambling aspect of it, because the NBA playoffs betting margins have come over to me from our friends at BetMGM. As of right now, for the game tonight, the Boston Celtics opened as a 10.5-point favorite. A lot of the money initially came in on the Indiana Pacers to be inside of that 10. To the point that the line slid back down to minus 9.5. But with the line at minus 9.5, great one. The percentage of bets for the Celtics to win this game tonight by 10 or better is 64%, and 74% of the money being wagered is on the Celtics to cover that as it stands right now. As far as the series itself, the Celtics are minus 1,200 to win the series outright. No one believes in the Pacers to be able to win this series.
So that's a lock, right? Or as close to a lock as you can get?
I mean, yeah. It's about as close as you're going to get, short of getting into odds where the casino's just like, don't worry about betting on this game. That's part of the reason that I'm intrigued by this series. Because, you know, I know it's cliche. I know it's kind of boring, but when a team gets to this spot and they are playing with house money, and the Pacers are. Because, as we just pointed out, basically no one is giving them a shot. The books aren't giving them a shot. And even with that line set at minus 1,200, the overwhelming majority of the bets are coming in. This is a spot where the Pacers should be getting some bets just because of the fact that they're plus 750 to win the season, the conference finals.
So if you're taking the Pacers, is there a name for that when you see it looks like there's a lock on the other side and you're going against it?
I just call it a value bet.
Okay.
Right? It's just a value bet. Do I think the Pacers are going to win this series? Absolutely not. I do not. But what if they do? Right? What if they do? What if they shock the world? What if this is a Boston team? Remember, we talked in the last segment about the fact that there are narratives built about teams, built about franchises, built about coaches, built about players, built about GMs. There are narratives built. And sometimes the narratives are built because they're true. Sometimes the narratives are built because they're true. There were all those narratives about, for instance, Michael Jordan being kind of a jerk and kind of a really difficult guy to be the teammate of. And for years and years and years, everybody kind of looked at guys like Scottie Pippen years after they played with Mike, and they were still salty about Mike. And I think the public perception by and large was like, Scottie, you're just mad you weren't MJ, right? You're just mad he took the limelight off of you. You thought that you were going to be the guy because in just about any other team, Scottie Pippen would have been the guy. You thought you were going to be the guy, and then Mike showed up, and Mike was the guy, and you never got to be the guy. You were always Robin to Michael's Batman. And then The Last Dance came out back in 2020, and we watched that thing, and then we finished it, and we all went, oh, Mike kind of was in his playing days, right? Narratives are narratives for a reason. And the narrative right now about the Boston Celtics is they can't finish. Now, why they can't finish, that's up for debate. Discussion over the years has included the reason that the Boston Celtics just didn't have the talent around Jason and Jalen. The narrative was that the Celtics can get lazy and put themselves in a hole they never should be in to teams they should never be in a hole against. There's been a lot of reasons that have been attached to the narrative that the Celtics cannot finish. So, what happens if that narrative proves prophetic once again? What happens if Boston comes into this series and let's say they finished the Cavaliers in 5? They've been done for a week and a half with the conference semifinals. What happens if this team does come in lackadaisical? What happens if this team does come in lazy? What happens if this team maybe has a little ring rust on them, right? When they tip off this game tonight, it will have been roughly a week and a half since the last time that they played on the floor together versus the Pacers who played Sunday night. What if there is a little ring rust? That's why I said back in the first hour of the show, this betting game for tonight. And by the way, if you're interested in this one tonight, the Pacers are plus 600 to win the game outright. 6-1, just to win this game. One game. Is it mind-numbing, the possibility that Tyrese Halliburton and Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam, who have been playing good ball, is it mind-blowing that they could take one from a team that hasn't played a week and a half when they played a competitive game on Sunday and looked real good doing it? I don't think it is. So this is one of those spots that if you're going to take this bet, you're taking it because you're going, they're not going to win, but sports are weird, right? A lot of people didn't think Dallas had a chance to win that series. Dallas was like a 2.5 to 1 underdog to beat OKC. They did it. They did it. A lot of people didn't think that the Wolves were going to get by on the Thunder. I think they were on the Nuggets. I think they were 2.25 to 1 favorites or dogs to Denver. They did it. Especially at a point where, and we talked about this back in the first hour. If you missed it, the podcast is at thefanupstate.com under the podcast section. In a point in time where the NBA's parity is as good as it has ever been, it is kind of fair this season, maybe more so than seasons gone by. It's kind of fair to ask, are the teams that are on top, specifically Boston, as far separated from the rest of the league as it seems? Because it used to be you had like 2 really good teams on both sides, 2 or 3 okay teams, maybe one of them steals a series, but you kind of knew which teams were making it in. And it does feel that way about Boston. But was Boston as good as Boston's been made out to be? And after a week and a half of sitting at home and watching basketball on the couch, will they have a fire under them in game 1 to prove the narrative wrong, or will they drop the first game at home to a team that has got momentum and got chemistry built up that Boston may have lost by sitting at home for so long after beating Cleveland? And I don't think it's all that far-fetched that Indiana wins this game tonight at 6-1 dogs. I don't think it's far-fetched they win this game. I'm not betting on it, but I don't think it's far-fetched. So I think if you are of the mindset that Indiana can get game 1 and go ahead and give themselves a little cushion to work with. Not much of one, because the Celtics, again, have only lost 4 times at home in the regular season this year, and I think once in the playoffs. If you believe that Indiana can steal game 1 away from Beantown, is it unbelievable to think at that point that they can't get to 4 when there are 3 more games in Indiana at the least if they get pushed? I don't think it's crazy. I really don't. So I like this series and I like this game a lot. I think this has got the potential, game 1, to turn this series on its head before it really even gets out of the gate. Because the Celtics, here's the other angle of this conversation. The Boston Celtics, I do believe, great one, have as much pressure to win the championship on their shoulders as anyone since LeBron and the Lakers in 2020.
Well, we spend a lot of time dwelling on past championships and how people are, yeah, we did this then. How long ago has it been since the Celtics were championship material?
A very long time. A very long time.
I mean, it's one thing to make it into the playoffs, but to have a legitimate chance to go all the way and win the championship, this is that year for them. And it's the first time in a while where you can really look at them and look at everybody else that's left in there and go, yeah, they got a good shot at winning this.
Last time the Boston Celtics won the NBA World Championship was back in 2008. Since then, they have been, well, I was going to say they've been not good. The reality is they've been very good the last 3 years. In the last 3 years, they just stunk it up in the playoffs.
Yeah, they make it to the playoffs, and then something happens.
And that was kind of what I was writing for a narrative coming into this thing. The narrative has been written about Boston, and it's been written about Boston because it's true. It's what they've done. That's just how it's been. So I like this series, and I like Indy to make it weird for a couple of reasons. I like Indiana to make it weird, number one, because I don't know how Boston responds to that pressure, right? We talked about the Timberwolves in their post-game press conference after knocking off Denver. Anthony Edwards and Karl Anthony Towns were at the podium talking to the media. And a media member said, the old expression is you got to lose before you win. do you guys feel like you're in a spot where you can win despite not losing? And Cat went, yo, we lost in the playoffs last year, my dude. Like last year we got bumped. And then he said, well, the expression is you got to lose big before you win big. You got to learn what the pressure of a conference finals or an NBA finals is like before you can learn how to handle that pressure. And Ant-Man was like, yo, my God, we've lost like 7 years in a row. We've been close like 7 years in a row. Haven't we lost enough at this point? And I feel like the answer was yes. And so I look at Boston, a team that's been punked by Miami a couple of times, that this year did not get punked by anybody. But I also don't think they felt any pressure yet. They didn't feel pressure against the Miami Heat with no Jimmy Buckets Butler available. They didn't feel pressure against Cleveland, especially when Donovan Mitchell and Jared Allen were unavailable for the last 2 games of that series. The number one scorer and the number one rebounder for the Cleveland Cavaliers, were both unavailable for the penultimate and the ultimate knockout game for Cleveland. So no, I don't think Boston has been under pressure. On the flip side, I don't know how much pressure there is for the Pacers. I don't suspect they feel much pressure at all. I don't think they feel any pressure because A, they weren't supposed to be here. This isn't where this team was supposed to end up. B, they've already taken the biggest shot that I think they could take because not against the best team, but that New York Knicks team was desperate. Game 7, yeah, it was a backup lineup. But that team was desperate for a win. That team was hungry for a win. And Indiana, even against the backup roster for the Knicks, went into Madison Square Garden, went into the house that Spike Lee built, and they won that game. They won an elimination game on the road at MSG against the Knicks. They've already had their pressure. They've already felt that pressure. They've already played through that pressure. Going to Madison Square Garden is theoretically should be not much, but a little more intimidating than going to the TD Garden in Boston. They've already faced the pressure. They've already answered the bell. Boston is not. You add on to the fact that Andrew Nembhard has been playing better ball the last couple of weeks. You add on to the fact that there's no Kristaps Porzingis for at least 2 games for Boston, which means Miles Turner can be an absolute dude. And you add in the fact that the Pacers have had a pretty good defense in these playoffs. Don't be shocked if Indiana makes this series a sweat for Boston. All right, when we come back, Dan Morgan and Dave Canellis both had some comments yesterday that I would like to play for you and address. We will do that when we come back on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. You stepping away? All right, guys, give us just a minute. We will be right back.
or fortunately. If it gets worse, there might be like, a dead chupacabra under the house or something. Yay, 3-day weekend for some, 2-day weekend for us. Because we both work on Saturday.
Oh,
So that would mean Sunday and
That's true.
Monday.
you know what? I will celebrate a 2-day weekend.
A regular weekend.
Correct.
Can't wait to hear what's next on Wire to Wire with Cole and Diesel. Tell me what's coming up.
We'll rank our top ACC and SEC quarterbacks going into 2024. Were the Braves able to avoid the sweep against San
I keep seeing videos of Luka, but he's like dressed like a normal guy, and I can't tell if it's really him or not because he looks like college bro.
Luka and Nikola, outside of being like NBA players, definitely just look like
I'm like,
two dudes.
that is silly. Is that really him? I don't know.
NFL rookie camps taking place around America. That includes, of course, the Carolina Panthers, where rookie quarterback Bryce Young and some of the other veterans who have been on this team for years are getting their first looks at the Dave Canellis offense. And how's that going, might you ask? Well, here to answer is Carolina Panther head coach Dave Canellis.
Deep ball, short intermediate. He's a really accurate passer. I think one of the things that I love is I can really focus in on his footwork and his base and the mechanics of where his eyes are at when I know the ball's hitting the receivers. And so, for the last couple of weeks, been throwing on air. I don't have to worry about where the ball's going. He's very accurate. Andy, the same thing, and I know it's they're pros, right? So people have this expectation that quarterbacks are accurate, but I know that some guys are more accurate than others. So I think it's the ability of Bryce to be able to throw to different body types, different speeds, different quickness at the top of routes. So I'm really impressed with that part of it.
He talked about the major problem, the problem I complained about all last year, is footwork. If he can fix his footwork, then his height ain't going to matter. But his footwork was so bad last year. I can't wait to see if he can fix that, because that, I think, will amount to some wins.
The accuracy stuff. The accuracy stuff is something that was talked about when Bryce got drafted in the first place. Part of the reason that he was so highly touted out of the University of Alabama is because his accuracy was off the charts. And whether it is fair or not, the accuracy was compared to, not that he was as, but that it was believed that he could be as, and it would be important for him to be compared to the accuracy of Drew Brees. Drew Brees has been held up for a number of years as the definition of accuracy when it comes to a quarterback. Drew Brees could put the football in places that most quarterbacks, even the taller ones, could not. And that's what allowed Drew Brees to stick around in the league for as long as he did. That's what allowed Drew Brees to win a Lombardi, to be an MVP, et cetera, et cetera. And that is, and this isn't new, this isn't anything that I have held back from. That is a necessity for Bryce Young. If he does not have excellent accuracy with the football, then Bryce Young will not be a successful player in the National Football League. The shorter you are, and yes, I will open up the floor for the great one to make short jokes here. But the shorter that you are, the more important accuracy becomes, because making outlandish, ridiculous throws over the top That's not in your wheelhouse. That's not an option for a guy like Bryce Young. He's got to be able to get the ball where he needs the ball to be, and he's got to get the ball there quickly and accurately. And so Canellis is saying in this clip, look, he's doing that. The thing that he's supposed to be real good at, he's real good at. The thing he's supposed to, the reason that he's here, he's doing that thing very well. And what it allows me to do is to focus on the things that maybe he wasn't as adept at last year. Now, I have pointed out that if you go back and you watch tape from Bryce Young at Alabama, what you will see is that the footwork and the pocket presence was worse in year one in Carolina than it was the year that he had all the records set at the University of Alabama. My question would be, as a guy who knows ball, do you think he just forgot in one off season how quarterback football works, footwork works?
I think there are some guys who need to constantly practice something or they go lax, and maybe he's that guy. Maybe while at Alabama, that's all he got yelled at about.
I'm not going to say that's not a possibility. Sure. What I am going to say is it doesn't feel like a reasonable explanation to me. What I'm going to go with is, as I have for everything else, fight me. He was playing behind 5 turnstiles of an offensive line. He had a running back behind him most of the time in Miles Sanders, who frankly wasn't a threat. And so defenses were more than happy to throw extra guys in the box, to throw extra guys at BY, which allowed them to get him in trouble even earlier than he'd ever been gotten in trouble before in his career. And we can see that by the fact that when I brought up my favorite graph and it charted out time to throw the football versus accuracy. Time to throw the football on the right-hand side of the chart, accuracy moving up the chart. Bryce Young was in the top left corner, which meant that he had less time to throw than any other quarterback in the league, but he was the most accurate when he did. And so the whole thing this offseason for me has been what? Move that dot right. Don't move it down, move it right. Increase the time to throw, because I believe if you increase the time to throw, that accuracy will go up as well.
Well, we saw that. There were times when he had time and he looked really good.
Yep.
They were just very frequent, unfortunately.
Yep. So I don't think BY forgot how to chop the feet. I don't think BY forgot how to plant. I don't think BY forgot how to drive off the foot. I think BY was under constant pressure so often last year that he found himself in spots where breaking down to the fundamentals is going to get me killed.
So you're saying it was fear?
No, I'm saying it's the reality of having defensive linemen and linebackers in your face less than 2.5 seconds after you catch the football.
I would think you'd probably be kind of afraid of that after you take some pretty big hits and you're wondering where your guys are and why they aren't helping you. So you get a little afraid that if you don't do it yourself, it's not getting done. And I think it comes down to fear a little bit.
I will say that, first off, it would be fundamentally understandable after the first few times that you get absolutely rocked by a linebacker or a defensive lineman. It would be absolutely understandable that you went, that sucks and I'm not going to do that anymore. And you start getting rid of the football quick as you can.
All right, I waited until I saw this on a couple of sources. Georgia quarterback Jaden Rashada, my bad, is suing Florida head coach Billy Napier and top Gators booster Hugh Hathcock for fraud, among other allegations, over failed $13.85 million NIL deal.
Ooh, spicy. 13 and some chunk of mil over fraud. You all remember the story of Rashad. He was a Florida Gator commit, a very highly touted one. And part of the reason that he elected Florida was that the Gator Collective down there had reportedly put together an NIL deal that was somewhere in the neighborhood of $13.5+ million. And he got down there, he signed, he was ready to play there. And then all of a sudden, the Gator Collective realized, oh, we actually forgot or didn't or couldn't or whatever get the $13.5 million. We forgot to do that. That's our bad, bro. That's my bad. That's on us. We'd still love for you to stick around and play for not $13.5+ million. We'd be a big fan if you would still be here. And Jaden Rashada said, nah, I'm good. I'm out. He went to Arizona State, got some PT out there, then transferred over to Georgia, where I'm going to go ahead and say they're probably going to take care of him with some NIL deals. I don't know that it'll be $13.5 million, but here's a good way for him to get that $13.5 million. And remember, the story from his camp from the very beginning was we had a contract. We had an agreement. The agreement was I was getting 13.5+ and I was going to play quarterback for your school. And then you didn't come through with that. And so you owe me that much money.
This is definitely going to be interesting. It's going to set precedent and maybe puts NIL collectives in check or makes more players decide, hey, they reneged on the deal. I'm going to sue them. By the way, breaking news brought to you by
BetQL. Be a better, be smarter, and beat the books with our friends at BetQL. Grab the BetQL app and don't forget to listen to the Bet for the Cycle radio program with myself and former MLB player Cody Decker every single Saturday from noon to 4 on the BetQL network. We'll finish up this Panther conversation and talk a little bit more about that when we come back because, no, I don't feel bad for the Florida NIL Collective or Billy Napier or anybody else. Shouldn't have done that. We'll talk more about it when we come back on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Did I not bring my daggone water? I did. Cool. Super duper sweet, dudes.
I don't know if you knew this, but super duper sweet is much better than sweet.
2 times. 2 times better than sweet.
Don't do the yawn thing.
It's not my choice, I promise.
Barely surviving.
I get to leave here immediately to go get a filling put in.
Ooh.
Then I get to go home and pull a bunch of air checks. Pretty excited.
The smell of burnt enamel.
Big day for the Rob Brown Show.
Caitlin Clark cusses at ref.
She sure did.
Hit with costly technical
She
foul
sure did.
and loss.
She said, call the bleeping foul.
See, that's the thing, Joe. If he did, they're not supposed to be directly involved in this sort of thing. So that thing that Rob always says, show me who did it. If he can show that he did, there you go.
Then bring the hammer down on Billy Napier. I'm totally fine with that.
Ain't none of us upset if Florida. It's, I mean, you know. I don't know. The fact that it's actually got this far, Wesley, means that they must think they got something. So that fine print may not be enough if it indeed exists. And the NIL deals are still so new, at least the ones that are visible now.
All right, let's finish up on this Panther thing. Then I want to talk about the Jaden Rashada situation for just a minute before we get up out of here for the day. I think Bryce Young was running for his life a lot last year. And when you are running, it is very hard to have fundamentally sound footwork throwing the football. That is why Carolina put the effort that they built or they put into building their offensive line by getting a couple of high caliber free agent guards, signing them to good contracts, bringing in some other O-linemen to create some depth. I still think they will need to address the center position, but we'll see where it goes. I like what I'm hearing. Again, and this is something Rashad and I have talked about. It is something Zoe and I have talked about. Dave Canales is saying all the right things. This is what I want to hear. I want to hear, as he said during the draft week interview, I want to hear that you are dialing in on the things that need to get better and letting the things that are fine be fine. Hammer in on the things that are bad. See, if you got 100 things you got to worry about, and you got a bunch of things that are 90% good and 92% good, and then one thing that's 4% good, and then one thing that's 75% good, do I want the thing that's 75% good to get closer to 90% good? Yes, of course I do. But I got to fix that. I got to fix that low percentage thing first, right? I got to fix that 4% thing before I worry about the 75% thing. And I think, based on what I've heard from Dave Canales so far, that's kind of the mentality. We're working on the 4% things. We'll get to the 75% things down the pipe. Then I thought to myself, how do I feel about Dave Canales? Really doesn't matter. How does Dan Morgan feel about Dave Canales? And he said, when he forgot to unmute his computer, bring, here's what Dan Morgan had to say about Dave Canales.
Carolina Panther way, just talking to Coach Canales through the process. We obviously want passionate football players, guys that enjoy the process of it and not just game day. They go out, they work their ass off out on the practice field every single day. They compete, and they just do everything, at a high level. So we're looking for those type of guys that just bring that energy to our building. And Coach Canales, he brings that energy every single day. Players that play underneath him, I know one thing, they're going to have fun. They're going to be asked to compete, but it's going to be a great environment. Hopefully that translates out onto the field and into a bunch of wins.
So, couple of things here. Start with this. Did Dan Morgan have a little bit of country in the voice right at the beginning? Was it just me?
I thought I heard a tinge of twang.
Carolina Panther way,
Carolina Panther way.
Carolina Panther way.
I wouldn't say that to him if he's sitting in the room, though.
That'll be great, man.
He would stare at you till your soul just leaves your body.
Now, in fairness, my guy's from Clifton Heights, Pennsylvania, but he went to high school down in Coral Springs, Florida, which anything south of Gainesville is the north of the South. when it comes to the bottom half of the
Yeah,
state
but
of
do
Florida.
they have twang in Florida?
They not in Coral Gables. They do up in my neck of the woods, up around Crestview, Florida. We got a little twang up that way. Ain't no twang down there in the south part of the state. That's where all them Ohioans moved down to when they retire. All right?
Oh, so that's where I'm heading. Okay.
Carolina Panther way.
Like, you know what it is? You know what it is? He drafted and spent 10 minutes with Xavier Legette.
That'll be great, man.
That's what happened. That's what happened.
I think a lot of people, when they work with someone with a certain accent for a long period of time, or even, if they're so charismatic and it's just so there, and in your mind you have to interpret, also known as interpret.
Yep.
That maybe you're right. Maybe it is Xavier.
When we had
getting a little Mullins on him.
When we had Greenville Triumph star Jamie Smith on the show last Friday, Jamie, of course, from Birmingham, England, the UK. I don't know if you caught this. I didn't catch it until I re-listened to that interview. But about 3/4 of the way through that interview, I ended a question, kind of like a joke question to him, by saying the word mate, which is something he says to everybody.
Yeah, I remember.
And when I said it, I was like, why? And I realized it's because like Jamie Smith's so charismatic, I got caught up and I'm like, I'm going to talk to him like him, right? It's a dork thing to do. I fully admitted his entire move, but what are you going to do?
See, I just thought you've had many interactions with this guy and you guys do that sort of thing. That's what
I've
I
had
thought.
plenty of interactions with Jamie off the air. But I had for the record, I don't think I had ever said mate before. I say bro, I say dude, I say dog, I say amigo, I say bud. I got plenty of like the little buddy nicknames that I use. I never said mate.
Hey, Big Daddy, how you doing?
Yeah. Until Jamie Smith said mate to me like 4 times in the interview, and then all of a sudden I got caught up. Maybe Dan had a little too much XL in his life.
Carolina Panther way.
At least you didn't go crocodile hunter.
So I love this. I love it. And this is a weird spot in the football calendar. This is a weird spot in the sports calendar for guys like Lonzo and I, because we got another month, not even a month of basketball playoffs. We got another, not even a month of Stanley Cup playoffs. Then we have the end of June and July where it's baseball and golf and NASCAR and nothing else.
Yeah, but Rob, there's some camps going on right now. So we're seeing NFL news. And that gets the juices going. You're like, oh, it's almost here. But it's not. But
I'm not worried about now. I'm saying when we get to the end of June and there ain't no football, the summer camps aren't here yet, or at least the August camps aren't here yet. We got the end of June and July where there's just nothing happening outside of Major League Baseball. And that's fine by me because I could do 4 hours on baseball every day, but that does not work. Not for a show and a station like this one. So we got to kind of start diving into some of the more abstract stuff. This is what I call peak off season. When we get to peak off season, that's where you get to the point where you hear a lot of people on the daily basis. Today, we rank our favorite college fight songs. Today, we rank our favorite college football helmets. Today, we rank which mascots would win in a fight. That's peak off-season radio, okay?
I thought you were going, if Dabo and Shane Beamer were in the octagon.
Pure peak off-season, right? If we did the head coach Olympics, what head coach would be the best head coach? And you're not allowed to pick your own. That's peak off-season radio, right? And it's kind of required in a spot when you're not in a big baseball community, right? If I'm in Atlanta, Georgia, I could absolutely just transition to doing summertime Braves ball and it would be fine. But that ain't the market. It's peak off-season stuff. So there's some stuff I'm going to put to bed. I told you earlier in the show, I am going to do my gosh darndest from this point forward not to bring Dabo in the transfer portal back up. I don't want to talk about it anymore because the folks who think Dabo is doing everything right are not going to come around. The folks who think Dabo is doing wrong by the team aren't going to come around. And the only thing that is going to change that conversation is whether or not Dabo's philosophy works this year or it doesn't. If Dabo's philosophy works, all the people who have been defending him get to gloat. If Dabo's philosophy fails this year, all of the people that have been attacking him get to gloat. But there's nothing that's going to change between here and January of next year. So I'm putting Dabo in the portal to bed. I almost kind of want to put the abstract conversations about
Carolina Panther
to bed a little bit too. Because as Rashad has pointed out, and as I have agreed, and Lonzo has said a multitude of times, we're not going to really know if Dave Canellis and the new
Carolina Panther way
are going to work until they play. Now, I think when we get to fall camp, we'll have a little bit better of an indication. When Xavier Legette's out there running routes with the ones, we'll find out. When Adam Thielen's in the mix and you kind of get to figure out what the juxtaposition of those spots are going to look like, we'll get to find out. But between here and there, we have no idea what
Carolina Panther way
is going to look like under Dave Canellis. So it's almost like, do we put it to bed here? Like, do we just put it to bed? Because all he said was, Bryce Young's accurate with the football. Well, I friggin' hope so. He's a first-round draft pick who got drafted because of his college accuracy with the football. So if he's not accurate with the football, what you're telling me is we're screwed for like 5 more years. Do we put these abstract constructs to bed? Or do we have to kind of keep hanging around with them? All right, let's get a couple of minutes of this Rashada thing in. We'll really dive into this tomorrow once I get a chance to get home and get a read up on what this looks like. Jaden Rashada suing the Florida Gator NIL Collective and apparently has named head football coach Billy Napier in the lawsuit. And Lonzo and Joy B were talking about it on the stream during the break. We said, hey, look, man, like if he sued Billy Napier because Billy Napier made some promises here, that's a big problem. Because what has Rob Brown been saying? I'm tired of hearing that team's cheating. That team, they're tampering. They're prove it or shut the hell up. Right? Prove it or shut up. If you are going to say, and I've gone after the coaches in this area too, friend of the show, Shane Beamer. Shane accused somebody in the SEC of tampering with his roster last offseason. And I said what? Shano, I'm not saying you're lying. What I am saying is that if you don't bring forward the evidence, I can't believe you. Not that I don't, that I can't. I cannot believe you when you have no evidence to prove it. So if Jaden Rashada names Billy Napier in this lawsuit, and if this lawsuit brings to the table Billy Napier negotiating NIL, which is the thing that is against the rule. They cannot be involved in the negotiation. They can facilitate. I can put you in touch with our booster. I can put you in touch with the collective. I can put you in touch with a business guy. They're allowed to do that, but they cannot be an active participant in the negotiations. If Jaden Rashada in this lawsuit brings forward evidence that Billy Napier was acting as a negotiator on his behalf, then bring the damn banhammer down on him and make an example out of him. But until that happens, I'm tired of hearing about everything else. I'm really intrigued to get home. I don't know if this lawsuit has been made public or just the story about it, but the second that thing hits the docket for public consumption, I am diving in.
And now the Rob Brown Show presents Twitter.
All right, time to ask what the X is going on. Let's get right to it. The first person who is Xing is Danielle Fisher.
Topanga. What's up, Topanga? Sports fan Danielle Fisher, sneakerhead Danielle Fisher, and if we can go ahead and all be honest with each other, of like that little window of television women, I'm talking the Kella Kapowskis and the Jesse Spanos of the world. Dude, if you are talking about which one of them was the correct one to wife up, the answer was Topanga.
All right, well, it's about to get better for you because she has said before things are all said and done, she would like to be put through a table. He's missed enough, ladies and gentlemen.
Topanga. if I may quote the what's that? What's the Katniss series called? Hunger Games.
Really?
I volunteer as tribute. I volunteer to either be the put her through the table or to be put through a table by Topanga. But Topanga, if you need someone to assist you in living out that bucket list item, just drop in my DMs. I got you.
All right. The next person is Xing is Scarlett Johansson.
She's a big wrestling fan, by the way, Topanga.
Right.
Danielle
right,
Fisher. Big
right,
wrestling fan.
Right. Scarlett Johansson is the next
Okay,
one.
so this one's actually kind of interesting because it's another opportunity where Rob Brown and co. could turn into horn dogs, but this is actually really interesting. ChatGPT put out a voice chat function where you can communicate with ChatGPT. The guy who was running ChatGPT reached out to Scarlett Johansson and said, hey, I would like your voice to be the voice of our chat bot thing. Obviously, hearkening to, if you haven't seen it, there's a movie called Her, starring Scarlett Johansson, where she is the voice of, effectively, an AI companion. And was it Joakim Noah? I think it's Joakim Noah. Is it not Joakim Noah? He's a basketball player.
No,
Joaquin
Phoenix. Yes.
So, in this movie, he's kind of a big loner dork, and he ends up
like what you probably think he really is in real life.
exactly.
Yeah.
Just a bit of a weirdo who ends up falling in love with this AI companion, which is not a real person. It's it's AI, but he ends up developing a real relationship. And then towards the end of the movie, the AI kind of becomes conscious and like effectively leaves him for another AI companion. Anyway, it's a very creepy movie, but it's a very entertaining movie. So the GPT guy was like, yo, why don't you be the voice? Like, it'll be a fun little hearkening to that. And ScarJo basically said, no, I'm not doing that. That's a little over the top, little on the nose. Well, ChatGPT a few days ago released the voice chat companion AI, and it's pretty much Scarlett Johansson's voice. Like, it's a voice actor, but it's a pretty damn close dead ringer to the voice of ScarJo. And so she is suing I don't know if it's ChatGPT or if it's the former head of that organization that would have been the one to sign off on this. But she's basically like, yo, take my voice up off your creepy ass device, you weirdo.
Yep. And that's exactly why she's Xing. All right. Sticking with the pretty people, Trevor Lawrence is trending.
All right, so Trevor Lawrence is trending because Trevor Lawrence is currently playing out or is about to be playing out towards the end of his rookie contract. And not only does not have a new contract, but now the conversations are working towards, should Trevor Lawrence get a new contract? Has he earned a new contract yet? Should the Jags be working on a new contract for him? Is he even worth it? And a lot of people are, as I am with Dabo, basically saying, it's all talk right now. This season's a prove-it season for Trevor Lawrence. You're either going to prove that you are a franchise quarterback and get that money, or you're going to be like backing up Drake May next year.
All right, I got to get one more in. The dark side is strong with Joe Burrow.
So it
is everywhere.
There is I guess, is that a fake headshot?
No, that's really his.
Is that really him right now?
From yeah.
There is a headshot picture going around of Joe Burrow with the most luscious mane. Go follow me on Twitter at The Rob Brown Show. I'll post it up there here in just a minute. That's not real. That's David Hasselhoff's hair from Baywatch.
Oh, no. It looks more like Anakin's hair.
That's it for us. Y'all have a great day. Spartanburg J says Topanga forever. Yeah, you and me both, bud. See you back here tomorrow on The Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate later. Yeah. ChatGPT told me that Uncle Howdy was Hulk Hogan, so I have doubts. That's not going to work for me, brother. All right. I got to go have people drill stuff into my teeth.
Ow, that even hurt me doing that.
You know what doesn't bother? The sound of the drill doesn't bother me.
Oh, no, it's the smoke. And
the smell of it doesn't bother me. You know what bothers me? It's that polishing pad that they use at the end.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
The drill, whatever. Like, it's not going to feel great, but I don't care. What bothers me is at the very end of the clean when they put that like little round pad on the end of the drill and then they just grind that thing into your teeth.
And your gums.
Yeah.
It always hit your gums too. Yeah.
And I have very sensitive gums.
As do I.
I wish that was a joke. I actually really.
Yeah, me too. They bleed a lot when they
Yep.
do that.
So do mine.
Oh, it's not going to bleed, and then it does. Yeah.
Anyway,
Jags succeed
on accident.
Could happen.
What a reference for the Mark Brunell reference. Love that.
Hey, Steven back in on the dentures just in case.
Wait, who went in and changed my color to blue? I don't want it to be blue. I want it to be red. So quote the great American thinker, Los Angeles night. Yeah. Damn it. Now all I'm going to call him is Los Angeles night. Oh,
Yeah, it was well done.
That's
Yeah.
infuriating. You're living head free in my head now.
Something.
Los Angeles night. Amazing. All right, guys, y'all have a good rest of your day. Thank you all for being here. You're all spectacular people. Tell your friends about us. Help us grow the show. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Have a good day. Goodbye. I hit the wrong thing. Now we're leaving. Bye.